Hello everyone, welcome back to another new video. In this video, I'm going to talk about Git and GitHub, something which is very much essential for those who wants to start their journey to become a full stack developer or maybe a software developer. Now, before I'm going to move to the actual part of this tutorial, I would like to talk a little bit about myself so that you know who I am and what I'm trying to do. My name is Anisul and last 10 years I've been trying to teach people online and offline. So I'm doing a lot of many jobs to help people out there. And basically from my YouTube channel, you can see that I have created nearly 2000 video tutorials on many subjects. And all of them are in my own language, in Bengali. So I'm from Bangladesh. Now this time I decided that I will try to teach people like globally so that I can help more people out there. And that's why from last week I have started creating videos in English, and that was the first one in HTML. So this time you're going to have a video tutorial in Git and GitHub. So I believe it's going to help a lot of people out there. So let's just start today's tutorial. And one more thing I would like to say, whatever I'm going to talk in this video tutorial, everything in my GitHub repository, you can see this one saying GitHub documentation. So I'll put the link in this video's description. You can easily find this GitHub documentation. So let's move on to the actual part of this video now. Now, before we're going to dive into the practical part of this video tutorial, we should have some theoretical knowledge about Git and GitHub. So let's start with the first part, which is introduction to Git and GitHub. Here we are going to know why do you need Git, what is Git and GitHub, and what are the differences between Git and GitHub. Throughout this video, I'll make sure that you don't get bored with the theoretical stuff. So let's say for a topic, first I will talk a little bit theory, then straight away I'll go to the practical side and I will show you what does it mean in reality. Let's start with why do you need Git. So I'll create some scenario so that you can understand why do you need actually Git. For scenario one, let's think like that in day one in a project, you have like added 3 lines of code. In the next day, you have added another 1 line of code. Probably in the next following day, you have added another 2 lines of code. So let's just imagine that this is your first version of your project. This is your second version of your project, and maybe this is the third version of your project. So why do you need actually these version things? So for an example, in day 3, you realize that whatever you have written in day 1 was absolutely working and you want to go back to that version 1. So here is something we are learning about version control, and we are thinking something related to version control. Maybe at some point you decided, okay, I want to go back to day 2, so the version number 2, and I was thinking like everything was working there, so why not just roll back to that version 2? So here again, I want to focus. We are thinking about version control, which is something very much important in perspective of Git. And so you can see here, let's imagine this one is version 1, version 2, and version 3. So we need to have something that can help us for controlling the version. And this is why Git is here. That can help us to control the version tracking. Okay. And next thing, probably, for an example, in version 3, when you were working, maybe you have made some changes and you want to see what are the changes that you have made so that you can control your changes from here maybe. So there is something more that we have learned, that change tracking is also important with the version tracking. And then the next scenario is going to be something like this. Let's say I have created a project for myself. And after a few days that I have realized that I should get help from other team members, and they are living in different places so that they can work in my project. I need something, I need some way so that they can collaborate in this project. And this is another scenario where you will need Git for collaboration purpose. So what you have understood so far for a version control system, or for controlling our version, for keep tracking our changes, whatever we are making in a project, and also for the collaboration purpose, we need something called Git. So Git is basically a version control system that's going to keep a track of your changes, and this is something going to help you for collaboration in a project. There are some other version control system exist in this world, of course, like GitLab, as you can see, Bitbucket, but I will say Git is the most popular one. As you can see, 70% of developers use Git. So of course, this is something you should learn as a developer. Now here one more point comes up, like what is Git and what is GitHub? We already know what is Git, but we are not familiar with GitHub yet. And there are so many people they just messed up when they try to define Git and GitHub. So let's just get a clear idea about Git and GitHub. I think so far you have learned what is the purpose of Git and what is Git, but let's now focus on to GitHub. Let's say I have created a project. You can see 3 people here. My name is Anis, so I am a person who is working in a project, and I have like few other colleagues, team members or friends. They are working in the same project. Here is one person called Alex, and here is another person called Robin. So we are 3 people working in a same project. So what you will do, let's for an example, this person living in a different country, I'm living in another country, and Robin is living in another third country. So all of us are living in different places. So there is some way we want to share one single project, like from anywhere. So in this purpose, what we do, we just keep our project in something called GitHub. So basically GitHub is a hosting site where you can put your project folder so that you can share with anyone from anywhere. That's the purpose. So GitHub basically is something, a hosting website where you can keep your project. That's all. And now if I want to use that project from anywhere in this world, I need to do that with the help of GitHub. Just this is the easiest example probably I can give here. So for an example, I want to use this GitHub project from the GitHub repository or whatever. Say whenever I'm saying repository, just for an example, a basic understanding, it is just a folder. Just consider this one just as a folder. I will say it quite many times throughout this video, repository. So it's basically just a remote folder. Okay. And then let's say Alex want to use this project from the GitHub that 2 of us are working, like Robin and Anis. So what he can do, he can get help from the Git version control system, and he can get everything from the remote repository to his local computer and start making his changes and do the collaboration. So this is how Git and GitHub works side by side. So you keep a project inside the GitHub repository, inside a GitHub folder where it is like globally hosted. So anyone can use from anywhere with the help of Git. But Git is basically inside your local machine. So whatever changing you are making, whatever version control you are doing, everything is handled by Git. So Git is basically working locally, but GitHub is something working like globally. Just remember this point. Fine. So we have understood what's the difference between Git and GitHub, and now we know that Git and GitHub is not something similar. GitHub basically a hosting site that gives some service so that we can host our website or host our repository or project, something like this inside the GitHub. And Git is a software or tool that helps us to change control and version control. So this is the purpose of Git. And this is something installed and maintained locally, so in your local computer or in your local system. But GitHub is something maintained on cloud, or you can say web. So now that we have understood what are the difference between Git and GitHub, we can move to the next topic, which is environment setup and configuration. Now, if you want to work with Git and GitHub, you need to do some stuff before you're going to move. So you have to create your account, you have to do some configuration related to Git and GitHub. First of all, you need to download and install Git on your PC. So no matter what operating system you're using, you have to download this Git on your PC. So for that, you have a link here. You can click the link and it will open the link on a web page, and you can download from there. But after that, you should check whether you have downloaded and installed it correctly so that you can do git ---- version. So this is the way you can check whether your Git is already installed in your PC or not. So here is my browser. You can see Google Chrome, and I'm going to open a new tab here, and I'm going to say git download. And then I will find out the website from where I can download the Git. You can see download Git SCM. I'm going to click here and automatically it's saying my operating system is Mac, so I can download it for my Mac operating system. You can do it for your own, like maybe you'll have Windows or Linux, doesn't matter. Just download it and install it. So after you have installed it, let's check it out whether you have installed it correctly or not. So for that reason, I'm going to open my terminal and then I'm going to type some command to check whether it's installed or not. You must remember I said how can you check the version that whether your Git is installed or not. The process is called git hyphen and maybe after that we can say version, and then you can see it's saying Git version 2.33.0, which means Git is already downloaded and installed successfully. Now that you have like download and install Git, so it is the time for configuring your Git. How can we configure our Git things? First of all, you can use a command called git config. This is the command you are going to use for your Git configuration every time you want to do something with the configuration. So remember, all the Git command, basically they start with Git. Just follow this thing here, it's very important. And then now we want to do configuration, that's why we're saying git config, and after that there will be like lots of flag and lots of other properties that you can use to do the configuration. First of all, I want to see whether there's some configuration is already here or not. So I want to list all the configuration that I have made earlier. So for you, maybe there will be no configuration, but I have done some configuration and I want to see what are those. So I will just press enter and you can see that it's saying credential helper, something, there is a keychain, and then it's saying user.name, it's saying Anisul Islam, then user.email, you can see the email here. Now for you, maybe there will be nothing like this. As I said earlier, maybe you have not done any configuration yet. So how can you do your configuration? For this, you can say git config again, then you want to set your username. So you can say user.name, and then inside of this double quotation, you can give any value that you want as your username. But for that reason, I will just want to make sure one thing here, and I want to show you. First of all, you should go to your GitHub account. So if you have not made any GitHub account, it is the best time to create a GitHub account for yourself. You can see that I have already have an account and I have already signed up to my account. Just make sure whatever username you have used here, you can see the username here, and also you know what is the email address you have used to create this like a GitHub account. Just remember these two things. I can go to setting and probably I can check everything from here. You can see this email address here, and you can see my GitHub name. Probably if I go to the profile, you can see it very well, I think, from here. And you can see my profile saying GitHub name here that I have given here, Anisul-Islam. So this is my GitHub username, and of course my GitHub user email is here, which one I have used. Okay, now that you have created a GitHub account, now you can come to your like terminal again and make sure that you are doing your configuration right. So you can say git config user.name and then put your GitHub username here. So this is the right way to do it. So I know my GitHub username that I have created is Anisul Islam. I can give it something like this. Now for an example, I want to change it. I can give any value here. I can say it's like kind of just a simple word, Alex here. I'll put Alex. And now I press enter, the GitHub configuration should change. But here's one more thing. I am trying to set my GitHub configuration globally. I'm not inside any folder now, any repository now, any project folder now. I'm working globally. So I'm trying to set for every single project in this local machine. I'm trying to set the username. For this purpose, you have to use one more thing here. So the previous command did not work. It's because I didn't say that I want to set it globally. Now, if you don't want to set it globally, then you should be inside a project folder, or you should be inside a folder. Now I can say something like this, username Alex, and then if I say, then you can see it's working. And again, if I list out the configuration, I can say git config and list everything, whatever configuration I made. And now you can see that it's saying my username is Alex. I have changed it. Now for an example, I want to change the user email here, or I want to set a new value. So for that reason, you can say configuration, git config, and this is the first time when you're doing it, you should set globally everything, and I will highly recommend you to do it globally. So do it globally, set your username and set your user email here for the git and github things. Okay, now this time I'll give a different email ID so that I can show you that it's working. I will say it's alex and then at gmail.com. So here is the email address I'm setting for the user and pressing enter. Now it's saying something is wrong here, and let's see what it's saying, invalid key. So it's not allowing me to do that. Let's say something, actually I have used com. Oh no, I will say .co.uk, and even though it's not working, so let's try something different. I will say alex at yahoo.co.uk. Okay, I should give a valid email address. Come on, it's not working. And why it's not working? Actually, it's not about the email address. Probably you have noticed we should have said like git config global then user.email, because the last time, if you say see here, I said user.name because I wanted to change username or set username. But this time I want to set user email, and this is the way we should do it. Now it's working, so we missed out this part, user.email. Fine, now let's check again what is the configuration list right now and how you can do it. Git config then hyphen list. So let's list everything. What are the changes we have done here? You can see the user.name is alex and user.email is something that I have already provided here and set by ourselves. Now this is not something I want, because I know my email address for the GitHub was Anisul 2010, something which I have already given. From me I can see from here, and I can see my user name for the GitHub. So I want to use the actual one and set up everything again correctly. So let's just do it. Git config, I'll make it a little bit larger for you so that you can see here. Okay, fine. And I will clear everything from here. clear clear or Control L will work here. So git config, and then I will say globally. I want to do it globally, all the configuration. And for the user.name, I know what is my username, and I will say that here, Anisul hyphen and then Islam. That's all. And again, same thing for user.email. So I will say user.email here, and then I'll put the email address, the actual one, not the funny one or incorrect one. Okay, yahoo.co.uk. So far so good. Now I can check again what is the configuration right now after setting up everything correctly. So git config, and then I will say list. Okay, and you can see everything is correct here. Now again, I want to say, if you're working inside a folder, for an example, you have created a folder called test, and for that folder you want to just create a different username and user email, which is perfectly possible. For that reason, you are going to say something like this: git config, and avoid the global things here. Straightway go for user.name and set the username inside this double quotation. So give whatever you like to give here. So this is the process for setting something locally, not globally. But globally is something that I will highly recommend it, so that you can use for every single project that you create inside your local machine. Okay, now that you know how to do everything like environment setup and configuration for your Git and GitHub, let's move on to the next part. All right, so far we have learned quite a lot about Git and GitHub. We know what is Git and GitHub and the difference in GitHub. We have seen how to do the environment setup and configuration things for Git and GitHub. Now we are going to see this time how to create a Git folder and add files, and also we'll have a look how basically Git work in a nutshell. And then from later on we will go one by one. Okay, so let's just start. I'm going to open my terminal and going to create a new folder for me. And in this folder, let's say I'm going to create my project. I'm going to build a software, whatever you want to do. So basically I'm going to create a folder where I'm going to do my work. This is my plan. Okay, so I'm going to make it a little bit bigger for you so that you can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to make a directory, but before that I want to go to the documents of my computers. You can go anywhere, so you can create a folder anywhere, it doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm going to make a folder with the command saying make directory. So mkdir, which means make a directory for me, and then you can give a directory name here. So I'm going to say the directory name is something like test project. Okay, you can give any project name or any folder name, any directory name, it doesn't matter. Okay, now I want to move to this test project folder that I have created. So change directory, then the folder name that you have given already. And now you can see on the left hand side, it's saying I'm inside this test project folder. So far so good. Now I want to open this project folder inside my VS Code, Visual Studio Code. Now if you don't have any Visual Studio Code, there is no problem. You just open this test project folder by yourself. So you can go to let's say to the project folder manually. I can show it to you. For that reason, I'll go to my computer section from here, and then I can show you probably. So this is the computer section. Now if I go to the documents from here, and you can see somewhere saying test project, it's here, and this is the project folder. So you can just open it manually if you don't have any Visual Studio Code. But anyway, I have downloaded and installed Visual Studio Code for my web development purpose. So I'm going to open this test project folder inside the Visual Studio Code with the command saying code dot, and then you can see the beauty here. So you can see the test project folder inside this Visual Studio Code. So far so good. We have done nothing, just created a folder. Now, first of all, I'm going to give you some basic idea how basically Git works, and then I will start apply one by one, and we'll see like how things go from the next. So let's say it's just some instruction for ourselves. I will say it's just a text, so text.txt, whatever. So I'm going to show you how Git works here, and then start applying our knowledge from this theoretical part from here. Okay, so first of all, you will have a working directory or project folder where you are going to work. So for us, our working directory is this one called test project. So this is our working directory. And then you will have something called staging area. So these are some common terms for working inside the Git or working with Git. So just please pay attention here. This is very much important for you. So first, you'll have a working directory or whereby you are going to like create your project. Inside your project, this is going to be something related to the working directory. So this is your project folder. And there is something called staging area. Of course, you are going to have a look about this, and we'll know a lot more about the staging area things. And the third one will be local repository, or you can say local folder. I will say local repo here in a short, but basically it means repository. Okay. And then you'll have something called remote repository or remote folder. So let's just put it like this. I'll make a little bit smaller for you. You can see it right now. So this is just basically how Git works. First, you will create a folder or you will create a project where you are going to do everything of your task. Then you will put all the code inside the staging area. And after that, you will be able to make move all the code from the staging area to local repository. And whenever you have all your code inside this local repository, which means you are ready to move everything inside your project folder to this remote repository. So these are steps that you must have to follow. And this is the basic of Git, you can say. So next time, if someone wants to collaborate with you, or someone wants to contribute, let's say collaborate here, then they have to pull the code from remote repository and bring inside their local repository, and then they can make changes, So basically it's like one way to other. If you are working inside the in a project folder, which we call working directory, you can put your code inside the staging area later on, and then from here you can move your code to local repository, which means you are ready to move your code to remote repository. Now, if someone wants to work, first of all, they have to get all the code from remote repository and bring inside their local repository so they can make their own changes. And after when they have done their with their changes, they have to push all the code again to the remote repository. So we are not going to focus on to remote repository things right now, but let's see how these things work. First of all, for the working directory, let's say we are inside this project folder called test project that we have already created. So now we know that this is our working directory. Now, if you want to move everything whatever you have inside this test project or working directory, and you want to add everything inside this staging area, you have to use the command called git add and then the file name you want to move here. So git add is something you have to remember here, and from git add, or you can say from staging area, if you want to move all of your code to local repository or any files that you want to move to local repository, you have to say git commit. Okay, and from here, if you want to move something to remote repository, you have to say something like this, git push. So these are something very much important for you to remember. I'll make it like this so that you can have a look what's happening here. And these are main summary. I will say this is everything right now you should know about Git. So how the Git things works: first you will create a folder where you're going to work, then whatever files you are going to do, whatever change you are going to do, make, and you will say git add. So from here you are going to this place called staging area, and whenever you are in the staging area, basically your file have a state something called tracked. So Git is able to track your file, track your changes. But if you don't bring your file here from working directory to staging area, which means if you still keep your file in the working directory, Git has no idea what you are doing. So these sort of files are called untracked. So basically in the Git, in a folder, you have two states. Remember, in a Git repository or in a Git folder, you have two states. One is tracked and another one is untracked. So when the file will be tracked, whenever you will add the file in the staging area. And how do you do it? Git add, that's all, and then the file name. And from here, if you want to move the files from the staging area to local repository, you have to say git commit and then some sort of message. So we'll have a look about everything about these sort of things, but for right now, that's all you want to know, like working directory, staging area, local repository, remote repository. So just remember these four things from here. Okay, so first of all, we want to make this folder as a Git folder, as a Git repository. So this is the first thing we want to do. And how you can do it, let's see. We'll open the terminal from here and you'll see here's the Visual Studio Code terminal has opened for us. Now, right now, if I show you what are inside this folder, you can say ls, which means list, and then enter. You can see we have only one file here, just a file going saying text.txt, which you can see from here. So we have only one file, but let's say ls then -a, which means show me whatever hidden files also available here. And now we can see, okay, there are 2 dots, 1 dot, but there is nothing saying Git. So we don't have anything saying Git here. If I say Git status, something that you want to know whether you have made some changes or not about Git and GitHub, actually Git, you can use this command called Git status. So Git status is something you are going to use in the staging area and also in the working directory area. So in these two areas, you can use git status command to check what changes you have done, whether the file is tracked or untracked. This sort of information you can get with this command called git status. So I'm going to press enter, but it's saying, hey, this folder is not a Git folder. So we can make this folder Git folder now by initializing Git. And how do you initialize Git? By saying git init, which means initialization, and that's all. And this is how you're going to create a folder as a Git folder. Now this folder is a Git folder. And how do you know this? Yes, we can check again. Git status, this is the command, and it's saying, hey, you have an untracked file this time called text.txt. Yes, we know this file we have not added to the staging area, and that's why this file is untracked file. Okay, so you must remember what I said earlier. If you want to make a folder as a Git folder, first thing what you should do is git initialize, which is git init in a short. So just make sure whenever you create a project folder, this is the first command you want to do, git init. Okay, this is one time thing you have to do. You have to initialize your project folder as a Git folder just one time, that's all. And then you can check whatever changing you are making whenever you are working with the working directory, or even in the staging area. You can use git status command. This is the command you can use. Now this time, if you want to see, there is no git folder you can see actually, but we can see what are the hidden folders or files by using this ls-a command, which is something we know already. Okay, so now you can see it's saying .git, so there is a folder called .git, which is basically going to help us when we are working with Git. Okay, and one more thing I want to repeat here: git status is the command that is going to display the state of the working directory and staging area. So whenever you are basically in these two places, you can use this git status command. Just remember this. Okay, so this is all I want to talk right now. And now one more thing, when I say git status, you must remember this thing. I will show it again, git status, and you can see it's saying untracked file. So in a git folder, a file can have two states that I already told you. One is called tracked. I can repeat it here. I can say it like this. I can write it down for you. One file state is called tracked. Another state is called untracked. So tracked basically means Git knows that you have added to some files to Git repository, so that's why it's tracked. But if you don't add something, or if you don't bring something into this staging area, which is you can do with the git add, we'll have a look later on. If you don't add something into the staging area, it will say, I don't know about this file, to be honest. That I know that you are working in your working directory or in a folder, but I have not added, or I'm not tracking that file, to be honest. That's what Git is saying here. Okay, so fair enough. Now we know how to create a Git folder and how to add files inside a Git folder. Now I can create one more folder here, file here. I can say, hey, this is test and txt file, and I can say, hello, this is me, Anisul Islam. That's it. And this is me, Anisul Islam. Fine. And it is the first line. Or I'll just leave it like this. Hello, this is me, Anisul Islam. Fine. So far so good. Now let's check again the status of this Git thing here. Git by saying Git status, and now you can see we have two untracked file that is basically Git is not caring about. Now if you want to track your changes, if you want to track the local versions, if you want to control everything, if you want your Git should work as a version control, then you need to follow some step that I have already explained. First, create a working directory, do whatever work you want to do, and then bring everything inside of this staging area. Other than that, Git has no idea whatever you are doing with your codes and whatever version you are making, whatever changes you are making. So we have to bring them here. So this time we are going to learn how to do this Git staging and unstaging. So our target is to learn how can we do staging and unstaging. Now that I have already told you how to do it, you have to use the command called git add, and then the file name you want to add to the staging area from the working directory. So let's do it. I can say, first of all, always just remember, use this command git status to see what is the status. Now you can see there are two files which is not tracked. Now for an example, I want to add this test.txt file inside the staging area. I want to move the file from working directory to the staging area. I can do it right now. This test.txt file only inside the working directory, not in this staging area. So our plan is to bring that test.txt file in the staging area. Okay, let's do it. I can say git add and then the file name. So the file name is test.txt. Okay, and now I want to see what's the status. Okay, let's check it. Git status, fine. And this time we can see that, okay, something is green here, and it's saying this one is tracked, but this one is still untracked. Okay, and we can track this one as well by saying git add and then the file name. So let's say git add and then txt text and then text. That's it. So now we can check again the status. Let's just clear the screen and see we have two files, both are green and both of them are tracked file. But here is something, it's saying no commits yet. So we have not like move them from the staging area to the local repository. Okay, that's fine. It's not our target yet. Our main target was for right now to move everything from the working directory to the staging area. That was our plan, and we did it. We did it successfully. But here, one more thing I want to tell you. I can make the terminal a little bit bigger so that you can see. Instead of saying git add, then let's say file1, name of file1, then probably name of file2, like this, you could say like add-ons, just git add dot, which means add everything to the staging area. So you could use like git add dot, which is perfectly fine. So instead of saying git add test.txt, then saying git add test.txt or whatever. So you don't need to say something like this at a time. You can add multiple files to your staging area by saying git add dot, which is completely fine. Okay, so that now we have added our files, let's say, into the staging area. Let's make some changes to our files and let's see how they work, actually, how the staging area works. So here I want to add one more line, and I want to say I am 32 years old. For an example, I'm 32 years old. Now I have added another line, and now let's see how actually Git is like checking everything. Is really Git care what changes I'm making? Is it really following everything? Is it really doing its task that we try to like understand at the beginning? We said Git is going to do version control, Git is going to do change control, everything. Now we want to see, is it really true? Is it really Git is doing the tracking here or not? So let's see how does it work. We have made some changes to our earlier version or earlier code. Now if we do git status again, you will see a message. It's saying you have modified the file. Yes, it's true, we have modified this file. And how does Git know? Because this is what Git should do, you know, Git is supposed to do. It is now keeping the tracking. It is now tracking your changes inside your working directory. And that's why we came to know earlier, like at the introduction to the Git, we said Git is something for change control and Git is something for version control. Now we have the example here, like actually Git is doing the task. Git is doing the change control things here, you can see. Okay, it is tracking the change control. Now this is the modified thing. Again, you have to follow the same process. After modifying, you have to add the thing. So always if you do something in the working directory, something new, add that thing into the staging area. This is something you have to do. Otherwise you will see it's kind of red. So once the color gets green, now you know it is inside this staging area. And if you see here the color is red, then remember your files are still in the working directory. Whatever changes you have done, that's still in the working directory, that has not moved to the staging area. So now that we have made some changes, we know these changes are still in the working directory and we have to move to the staging area. How do you do it? You just say git add and then the file name, or you could say dot. That's all. Okay, and again, let's check it out. We have moved the file, or we have moved the changes actually to the staging area. Now we can see the status, what's happening with the status. You can see the status, everything is green here, which means we have moved all our changes to the staging area. And now we can like move everything to the local repository. We are ready for that. But before that, I want to show you how to unstage something again to the working directory. So how you can go back from here to here. This is also possible, definitely possible. But before that, I wanted to show you one more thing. Let's just learn more. Let's say here I am something, and just add one more thing. I am from Bangladesh. Okay, cool. I have saved it. Now again, if I do like git status, we know that this command works when we are working in the working repository, or even when we are working the staging area. Now if I do git status here, it says that I have modified something. Now if you are interested to see what I have modified, or what changes or what differences that I have done here, I can see the difference here. I can check the difference here by saying git, then I can say diff. So diff is basically for difference, diff here. And now if I press enter, you can see I am 32 years old, and then I am from Bangladesh. So these are plus thing that I have added something new. You can see the green color here. Okay, so basically it's showing what are the differences you have made. Now you can add the differences. So let's just add it. If I say git status, you can see you can add or you can unstage from here. So if you want to add, it is saying here git add. If you want to restore, which means you want to go back to the previous thing, then you can say git restore then file name. So this time I'm going to like unstage from here, or restore, go back. I don't want to add this thing into this staging area. Like I'm from Bangladesh, I don't want to add this thing to this staging area. I just want to go back to the previous version or previous changes. I can say git restore and then the file name. So the file name is here that I'm working right now is called test.txt. And then now you can see automatically it has gone from here. I'm from Bangladesh, it's gone. So this is how you can stage and unstage your things. Okay, and I believe I was able to explain quite a lot easily to you, and it does make sense for right now, so that we are working theoretically and practically. We know how to create git folder, we know how to check the status of our git things by saying git status, and we also know how to do staging and unstaging. So for staging you have to say git add, and if you want to go back then you can say git unstage, not unstage, git restore. So if you have done something in your like working repository and later you think, okay, I don't want to add these things to my git, then you say git restore and then the file name. It will automatically just remove the things from here. And if you want to see what the differences you made, then you can use git diff command. This is very much helpful to see what are the differences you have made or you have done. Okay, now that you know how to bring your file inside the staging area, now we should move forward. We should know how to like move them to the local repository, and for that the command you have to use, it's called git commit. So this time we are going to see how to commit something. So how can you move something from staging area to local repository, and why it is needed. So far you have seen how Git actually controlling, how Git is actually checking your changes. Okay, whatever changes you are making inside of your project, it is just checking everything for you. It is giving you all the information, what changes you have made, whether you want to move them into the staging area or you don't want to move them in staging area. If you want to remove them, you can use the Git thing here. So Git is like checking our change here. Now we want to control our version. So this time we want to check this thing, version control. How does this Git works with the version control? We have seen how the change control things work. Now for the version control, you have to move your code from here to staging area to local repository, and then you will have different version of your project, and then you can see like how this version control things works. So if you make a commit, it will give you a unique ID, let's say for version 1. Then you do some changes, you add the changes to the staging area, and again if you bring the changes to the local repository or you made commit, then you'll have another ID. So every time you commit something, you'll have a different ID, and those different ID will help you to the for the version control. So let's check it out. I know it's quite a lot of theory. Now let's check it as a practical things. How does it work? So far we are still in the staging area. We have not moved our code to the local repository, so we won't be able to do the version control things. So let's check the status. We know we can use this command until we are inside the working directory or staging area. I know that our code are already in the staging area, so I'm doing git status. Now I can see that it's saying I have modified something inside this text.txt file, which is this one. Yes, it is true. So let's just add whatever I have done here. So let's just bring them inside the staging area from the working directory by saying git add dot. Okay, cool. Now let's just check the status again, and it's saying everything in this staging area because the color is green. Now I want to move everything from the staging area to local repository, and it's saying here actually no commits yet, so you can make your commit. Okay, let's make commit by saying git and then commit. This is the command you can use, and then -m for basically message, and then you can add a message when you make a commit. This is something very much important, so please pay your attention. Whenever you are making a commit, it's going to create a unique ID for this version of your code, and the message is very important so that you can recognize what you have done in this version. So it is very important. So here I'm going to say, for an example, what can I say? Let's just check. Okay, I have added 2 lines here. So a basic info about me. Okay, basic info, or I can say name, and what I have added here, name and age is added. Name, age is added. So make it very much clear, more descriptive as much as you can, so it's very much understandable, something like this. Okay, so make the description or make the message as much as clear as possible for you. Okay, fine. Now that I have added like to the local repository, now you can see some things here, some very much important information here. I can make it bigger so that you can see. It's saying master, so don't worry about this master. We'll come to the later in this part. Master is basically saying the branch, so we'll have a good understanding about the branch later on. But it's saying here like it's giving an ID here, something is very much important for version control. It's giving how many digits are there, 2 to 4 6 2 to 4 4 and 3 7 digits there. Okay, so the ID is, let's say for an example, for 16 digits, but here it's giving only 7 or 6 for an example. So it's not the entire one, but this is the one you can use for controlling your version from one version to another. You can go with this, you can like change one version to another with this unique ID. And here is the message that we did put inside the commit. When we made the commit, we made this message. We created this message, and this message is here, you can see. And it's saying 2 file changes, 8 insertions, plus you can see create mode. That means we have added new things here, and then created mode, the file name here. No problem, we can see quite a lot here. Now next time when you want to see what changes, like what you have done inside this local repository, and for this we can use something called git log actually. So the command is called git log, and this is something going to tell you about the committing, like how many commits you have made, what are the commits is about. So it's saying I have made 1 commit, and here is the commit ID. Start with like saying commit, you can see the text here, and then the commit ID. This is something very much important. So basically this is the first version of my project. So every time now I do something and add that inside the staging area, then add that changes inside the local repository, which is by using git commit, it will create a commit ID for myself, and this is the ID that I'm going to use for the version control. And here it's going to say where is the branch, which is the branch I'm using right now, and then the author name, you know, this is my git username, this is my git user email, this is the time and date that I have made the changes, and I have added that the code inside the local repository, and here is the git message. Okay, now let's say you want to add you want to do some more changes to your git project folder. So for that I'll make a practical example for you. Let's come to here, let's add one more thing here. Now I'm saying I am from Bangladesh. Okay, so every time when you make some changes in your git repository or in your working repository, the first thing you have to do, remember, after working in a directory, just bring them in this staging area. So how you can do that? Just saying git add. So first of all, even adding before anything, like say git status, so now you know what changes you have made, what are the files as you are working. So it's saying test.txt file has been modified. Now you want to add, or like you want to go back. Yes, I want to add. So for that I can say git add and add everything, all the changes I've made. Okay, now let's check the status again. Now the text, you can see the color has turned into green, which means that it's ready to commit. Okay, so let's bring everything from the staging area to the local repository, whatever changes, new changes I made. Okay, so now if I say git commit here, and then m for the message, now I will say country info is added. So this is my new message for the new commit, and it's saying 1 file change Here is the commit ID created and commit messages here, and saying 2 insertion 1 deletion. So how many things I have added, how many things I've deleted, whatever. So now let's check git log this time, how many commits I have. So with the help of git log, you can know everything about your commits. It gives commit information to you, how many commits you have made so far. So I said git log, and now this time you can see that we have 2 commits. Okay, yes, we did 2 commits, and each commit has each unique ID, like they have unique ID, and they have like you can see git message here also. Country info is added. The first git commit was, now this time we made name and age is added. Sorry, this is the second commit we made, and this is the first commit we made. So it will go like up every time you add new commit, you do new commit, it will be always at the top. Okay, and now what we can do, let's say we are not interested to see all the information about git, like when we made the changes, when we added to the like local repository, or even we don't want to see like author information here. We just wanted to see the commit ID or maybe commit message, something like this. So how can we do it? We know that git log is going to show all the information, but we are not interested about all the information. So this time we can use like hyphen one line and press enter. Now you can see it's just saying the ID in a small version, so not all the digit. And then it is giving us the git commit message that we have used earlier. So commit ID and commit message. Now we have 2 commit ID with 2 commit message for sure. And this is the easiest things you should do. You should remember to check your git commits history. Okay, fine. So that now you know how to add things to your local repository. Then now you should know how you can go back from here to here again, the like in a reverse way. Okay, we know how to do it for sure, or maybe not. So let's learn if you have no idea about how to uncommit your things. Okay, so let's see how can we uncommit our things. That means we can go back from, how can we go back from here to the staging area. For this reason we can say git reset. So this is the thing you will use if you want to go back from here to the staging area or even working directory. So you can say git reset. This is the important things you will start. Now if you say hyphen soft, and there's something like this head and then this symbol here, then you can go back to the staging area. Now if you say something like this, just not the soft part, remove this part and say head, then you can go back to the working directory, just like whenever you were in the working directory. But if you say here just hyphen hard, then it's going to delete all the changes that you made. That's all. But I'm not going to do it here because I'm not interested about uncommitting here. I wanted to show you how the version control things work. And for this reason, I will just open this file. Remember, in the first commit, we added 2 lines. That means in the first version of our project, we had only 2 lines. In the second version of our project, we have added this line. So remember, we have 2 versions, version 1 and the version 2. Now we can check how many versions we have by saying git, you remember, log and 1 line. Now you can see, yes, here we have 2 versions. Now right now we are in the second version, you can see. Now if I want to move back to the version 1, I can do it because we are using git, and we know that git helps us to control our versions. So from here I want to go to this commit ID or this version. I can do it by the command git checkout. So I want to check out from right now wherever I am. I know I am right now here. And how do I know right now I'm in the version? Because it's saying head master, so it means I am here, my head is here. Okay, now if you want to move back to the first version, then you have to say the ID after saying git checkout. So I'm going to say the ID. I can copy the ID from here and just paste it here. That's all. You can see I pasted it here. Now if I press enter, just have a look here. Remember, in the first version we just had 2 lines, not this one. This one we added in the second version of our like git things. Okay, so if I just press enter now, you have seen the changes here. The second version of our code is now gone because we wanted to move back to the first version. Now again, if you want to move back to the second version or the updated one, you can do it, of course. So let's check again git log one line. Let's see all the commit ID. Here's the commit ID, but now you don't see the second one. Where it's gone? Hey, where is the second version? Is gone, the updated one. For this reason, you can say this time, if you even have no ID here, it doesn't show any ID, you can say git checkout, and then you can say master. Why master? Because you remember whatever update you have done, how many, let's say you have 8 commits, and the last commit basically is the master one. So you can go back to that master one right now, and you can say git checkout master. This time you don't have to use any commit ID. Okay, so now you can see everything is backed. And now again, let's check the git log one line thing. So git log one line, and you can see we have all the commits we have done so far, and it's saying here's the master, our head in the master. Okay, now that you have seen a couple of times this word called head, and now you're familiar with commit, so it's best time to explain what this head is all about. So let's say when you make a commit, this is your head. This is saying this is the commit I'm working right now. I'm working with this version. This is what the head saying here. So you can see all the information with git log -- one line, not all the information, maybe whatever you need. So you can see it's saying commit ID here for an example, and then the commit message. And here is saying head is right now the master one. Okay, so basically it's saying that you are working with the master branch and actually with this version. This is what it's saying, you are working with this commit. So let's say if you say git show commit ID, this is another command you should know here. You can say git show, or you can say git show head. That means it will show about the commit history, whatever inside the head, whatever head is basically referring. Or you can say something like this, git show, then the commit ID of a commit, and then it will show the details about that commit. Okay, just like this, you can see whatever added or whatever you have like remove, everything will be there. All the information about that commit will be there. Right, now for an example, if we do one more commit, then the head will move from commit 1 to commit 2. That means from version 1 to version 2. And now you can see the head moves here. And then if you make another commit, that means it's a new version. So your commit will change its place. It will go to the next one now, which is commit 3. And as you have already learned, you can use git checkout to move from one commit to another. You have seen that the practical users you have already seen. You could use git reset, that I have already shown you how to use git reset as well. So you can uncommit with the git reset thing. Probably you have seen that practical example as well. Now if you want to go to version 3 to version 1, definitely you can go just with the git checkout, and also you need the ID wherever you want to go. So you can say git checkout, then the commit ID wherever you want to go, the version ID. Okay, and if you want to see what are the commit history that you know already, you can use the command called git log. You can use the command called git log -- one line. It will basically give you less information compared to the one git log. Okay, and now you know git show, and then if you put ID of any commit, it will show all the details what has been changed in the commit, actually in the new version. Okay, and you can use git checkout commit ID to move from one version to another, or from one commit to another. Okay, so basically this is the tree, this is the structure so far, whatever you have learned so far. So let's say we start with this working directories. This is where we start working. We make some changes, we add some files, and then we add those file or changes to the staging area. And from here we can just commit to the local repository, and we can start our version control from here. But when we add our files to the staging area, we can change the control already. What are the changes we made? We can use git difference to check the changes whatever we have done in the working directory. And before you are adding all the files from the staging area to local repository, you won't be able to check the version control. So for the version control, you have to make the commit. So after making the commit, you will have some sort of commit ID, and with the help of commit ID, you can do your version controls thing. You can check out one version to another with the git checkout thing that you already came to know. As you can see here, git checkout. And then important thing is, like, if you want to undo your commit, which means if you want to go back from local repository to the staging area, so you can do that. You can say git reset, then soft hyphen soft, then head, and then this symbol. I really sometimes don't remember what is the name of this symbol, and I'm sorry about this, sometimes called 2p. Who knows, don't care about this. If you want to go back from this local repository to the working directory for some sort of commit that you made recently, then you can use git reset head. And if you want to like delete everything, the new changes that you made, then you can use git reset hyphen hard, then head, and this symbol. And for like checking all the commit history, you can use git log, and also the git log one line that you have come to know earlier. Okay, so this is all you wanted to know about these git commit and uncommit things. So far we have learned a lot about Git. Now this is the best time for us to start learning about GitHub repository. But before that, I want to summarize that we have learned so far. So the process and the steps are very simple when you are working with Git. For an example, you will create a folder where you are going to work, and this is going to be your working directory. Inside the working directory, first of all, you are going to initialize that Git. This is the first step, and this is the only time, like one-time things that you have to do. So initializing Git is a one-time task. And then you will do some changes, you will add some files, and these changes should be added to your staging area by the command git add. And then from the staging area, you need to move all the changes to the local repository. For that, you will use git commit. Okay, so these are the basic steps every time you have to follow. Make some change, add that to your staging area, and then push that changes to your local repository, which is by using git commit command. Okay, now for working with GitHub, you need a GitHub account that I already discussed at the beginning. So make sure you have a GitHub account and sign into that GitHub account for sure. Now, so far we've been like working in the local repository. Now we want to move all of our changes from this local repository to the remote repository, which we call GitHub. And why we need to like push all the changes from the local to remote? Because we want to work remotely so others can join. For this like example, we can use one more like diagram from here. As you can see, let's say I'm working from my own computer. I'm making all the changes for a project. My friends also working in the same project, and other friends or teammates working in the same project. But we need to have something common, that where we can push our changes, and also we can get the update code after everyone makes their own changes, you know. And this is the place is GitHub. We already discussed about this at the beginning. So GitHub is kind of a global place for every one of us, so that if someone makes change, that change will be pushed to these GitHub things. So there will be a folder that will be holding our project, and that project we can use like every single of us. We can just pull the project to our computer, our own machine, local machine, and here we can make some changes, update it, add some feature, and do some things, and then push the changes again to the GitHub so that others can have the updated thing. So this is the like common like working steps like with Git and GitHub. Git basically works with the local machine, and GitHub basically works as a global thing. So you can say that is something hosting our project. Okay. So these are the important things you need to know at this point. Push and pull things, kind of two small things, push and pull. Just remember this thing. We have to think like that. From the local, we have to push our code, and from the global, which means GitHub repository, we have to push our code. That's the thing. Okay. Now, after you have created your GitHub repository, you have to sign into your GitHub, and then you have to create a repository. I will show you how to create your GitHub repository and then connect to your local and remote repository. But here are some theoretical stuffs that you need to know at this point. We'll do everything like practically, and you'll see it by yourself. You can check whether you have made already a connection between your local repository to your global repository, which is GitHub repository, by doing this command like git remote and then -v. And then you can add a remote repository by saying git remote add and then name of the repository. Normally people say origin, and then you can give a URL that you want to connect to your local repository. So probably at this stage these things are not going to make any sense, but don't worry. So our task is to, what is our task? First, create a GitHub repository and then connect to our local repository. This is the task, you know, we are going to do at this point, so that other members of my team, they can use the same GitHub repository, pull the code, do changes, and again push the code. That's all. Okay, now here you can see my browser, and also I am already signed into my GitHub account so that I can create GitHub repository. But before that, I want to check whether this local repository is already connected to some remote repository or not. Git remote and -v. Okay, it's not giving back us any URL, which means this is the right command actually. So let's just connect, let's just create a remote repository and connect to the local and remote one, and then check whether we have like this git command works or not. Okay, so git remote v, we try to check whether we have already any remote repository connected here. If it was connected, it is supposed to, by this command, we are supposed to get back one URL of the remote repository. Okay, let's just start from here. You can see I'm already signed in. I'm going to create a repository. And how do you create? Just click the plus icon here and new repository from here. Then give any name that you wish, of course something meaningful. Yeah, so I'm going to give here, it has git repo. This is not something like already exists. No, it is already exist. I have used this name already, so that's why it's showing I cannot use it. Okay, I'll say git test new for an example. Okay, and then you can add some description here for your project. Let's say it is a testing project, it is a testing project, whatever. So this is going to be description of your new repository or new folder, remote folder. And then you can add a readme file here. I'm going to discuss about this readme later, but for now this is just the documentation for this repository. You can add documentation, how this project works, what are the things this project is all about. You can add some documentation by adding this add a readme file, and later on you can like change inside this readme file, you can give more information. Okay, but right now I'm not going to add, I'm just going to create a repository for us here. So it should be creating our repository, but here for the first time we have some commands here. It's saying git remote add origin. So by using this command we can add this remote repository to our local repository. So let's just do it. This time we're learning how to connect the local and remote repository. So I can copy it from here and then I can just paste it here. Okay, and then press enter at the end if everything goes okay, nothing is wrong here. And then it's saying rename the branch name. We know normally our branch name is master, and something we are going to discuss a lot later on, like branching thing, but for now we don't want to rename our master branch as a main, so this line is not necessary at this point. But we are going to use this line where it's saying git push. So we want to push our local repository things, whatever we have inside this local repository, to the GitHub remote repository here, GitHub repository. Okay, but before that I want to check whether we have something here, like we have connection with the remote one or not, by using this command. You can see this time the command is working, and it is saying you can see the URL here. So our remote repository is now connected to a GitHub repository. You know, actually our local repository is connected to a remote repository, and here is the URL of that remote repository. Now by saying origin, you know, when we use this origin here, you remember, now this time you don't need to use this URL anymore every single time when you make a connection between your local and remote repository. You can just say origin, because you are saying instead of this URL, next time I'm going to use this name origin, and that's what you said already. Now if you want to push all the code from here to remote repository, then here is the command, the last one that we are going to use. and I'm going to paste it. But hey, just wait a second before pushing it here. Remember, we didn't change our branch name as main, we just kept it as like just master. So you can just write down here master, that's all. Now you can see all the changes here, all the messages here. Basically it's saying it's pushing all of our code from local to remote. Now our code should be remote in the remote repository. So let's just reload this page and let's see whether it changed or not. Yes, we can see. So whatever we have done inside our local repository in the local machine, now we can see it's here. Basically everything is here. Okay, fine. So far we have done quite a lot at this point. We have learned how to create a remote repository. We have learned how to connect local and a remote repository. Then also we have learned how to push the code from local to remote repository. Now let's learn how can we create commits here. We know that we can create commits from here, and we have created 2 commits if you remember when we work locally from here, and then all the commits should be here as well. Now where are all the commits? You can see it's saying latest commit, and here is the history. So let's go to the history, which is something we could see by using here as well by saying git log. You must remember we said git log for checking the commit history, and we can use the on line, and that's all. We have 2 commits. And it is the same thing here, but you can check it by checking the history. So we have to commit here. Now we can make changes from here as well. So let's go to the file and let's come to here, and let's change something here, or maybe into the another file here, this one. So probably you want to add something from here. So the thing is, every time the things are same, you have to make some change. You have to make bring everything in the staging area, then you have to commit and then push. This is how everything works. But when you work in the GitHub repository, all you have to do, you have to make some changes and then make the commit. That's all. So you will see your changes for sure. Now I want to say I have studied, I have done my masters. I will say I have done my masters in software, web and cloud at Tampere University. Okay, that's all. So I have given some information here this time, and this time I'm working in the GitHub repository, not in the local. So both is possible at this stage. So definitely most of the time you are going to work from the local repository because you are working in your own machine. You are doing all the changes, and whenever you are done, when you are happy with your changes, then you are going to push your code, you know. So anyway, but there is a process you can follow here as well. You can make changes and also commit from here. Now you need to give a commit message here, just like we did in the local repository. So let's say educational information, cool. And you can add some extended description here, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to make the changes here. So makes the commit here. Okay. And if everything goes right, now you can see that I have done my masters in software, web and cloud at Tampere University is added. This line is added to the test.txt. Now, if we come the test.txt file, you can see whatever changes we made, you know, in the remote repository is not going to show here for sure. And why it's not going to show here? Because we have not pulled the changes yet. But before how to make how to pull changes, I want to talk a little bit about the history again. Let's see how many commits we have here. Now this time we have 3 commits, but in the local repository we have 2 commits. And the reason why you have 2 commits, we didn't pull the code yet. So how can we pull the code? This is the task we need to do this time. Well, pulling is very, very easy. All you have to say, it's like git pull, that's all, you know. And you can, for the first time, you can say git pull origin master, but from the next time, git pull is just more than enough. So let's come here. Let's do the pulling from here. So let's just say git pull, then origin. You remember we said we don't have to say the URL, remote URL again and again here, just origin is okay. So basically this was the name for the URL, git pull origin, and now we can say master, okay? Because this is the branch we want to pull from. Master is basically the master branch, the main branch. You can have a lot of branches. different branches in your GitHub repository or in your GitHub, but master is the main branches for right now. This is enough you need to know, and probably later on you're going to know a lot more about branches. So git push origin master. This is the first time you're going to use git pull origin master, and from the next time when you are going to do these pull things, git pull is just enough. You don't have to write git pull origin master if you are not targeting any branch other than master. Okay, so now you can see, okay, now in the local repository I have whatever changes I made in the GitHub repository. Wow, whatever changes I made in the remote repository. It looks so wonderful. Now we have learned quite a lot. What we have learned so far. Now we have learned how to create GitHub repository. We have learned how to add GitHub repository to our local repository. We have learned how to push the code from local to this GitHub or remote repository. And finally, we have seen how to make changes in the GitHub repository and make the commit from here as well directly, and then pull all the changes from here. So your coding structure should be like this. I'm going to write few things here, and then probably I'll delete these things. Let's just say every time you're working, let's say you make some changes, make changes in your project, and then you are going to add the changes to the staging area. Then you are going to commit the changes to your local repository, and finally you are going to push your changes. For an example, this is the structure. And so everyone in your team, let's say, going to push the code in the GitHub repository here, and now probably you haven't pushed anything, let's say, for next 3 days or next 3 weeks. Then some other team members, maybe they have like updated everything regularly, they push a lot of things here. Now when you come back after 3 weeks, you want to get all the changes they made and then start working again, so you need to do the git pull things if you want to see what the changes they made. So git pull is something updated code. You are getting updated code from the remote repository, but by using this git pull things. Okay, fine. So far we are doing wonderful. We have learned quite a lot of things here. Now at this point I want to show you one more example for one more time. Let's practice one more time. Okay, I'm going to remove everything from here that I did just now, so I will come back here. Okay, so let's just add one more line here. Let's do how does it work. So when we make some change, we can do the change. Let's do some changes here. I'll make it smaller so that you can see very well. Okay, so here I want to say I love Finland, or I live in Finland. I live in Finland, even though I'm from Bangladesh, which is not necessary here. I can say I'm born in Bangladesh. Born in Bangladesh, but currently living in Finland. Currently living in Finland. I would say something like this. Okay, good. Now this is the change I made to my project. You know the steps you have to follow. Let's just add the changes. So how do you add the changes? So right now you are in the you remember you are in the directory that you are working. So you are in the workspace, you are in your working directory. Now you made some changes, and that changes should be placed in the staging area, and for that we do git add, and we are adding all the changes by saying dot. We could use the file name here, but we are not doing this. And then we can say we know that everything we have done already staged, and all the changes we made, it's already staged, and we can check it by saying git status. Now you can see whatever changes we have made, it's like have a green color text, and now we know that these are ready for committing. So we can push to our remote repository, not remote, local repository, because you know the step. You have to follow this step. We have done the staging area. We have moved our code from working repo directory to the staging area. Now we want to move everything from the staging to the local repository. And for that we have to say git commit, and then m, and then add a message. I will say it's like living information this time. So message is just living information. Cool. Now let's just push our code. Now we know that we have done everything in the locally, we have everything locally. We moved all the changes to our local repository, and how we did it, we just said git commit, and right now we are here in the local repository. Now if you want to push all the changes that you made right now, then you have to like say if you want to push all the changes to your remote repository, then you have to say git push. That's all you need at this stage. So let's just say git push. Okay, git push, and hopefully it's going to work. And as you can see, it's working. It has pushed all of our code to remote repository. So let's just reload the code, and you can see here is the new commit libing information, which was committed 1 minute ago. Now you can go to the code again and you can see what are the changes that we made. So I'm coming here and you can see I'm born in Bangladesh but currently living in Finland. So everything is working exactly that as we wanted. Okay. Now this time I'm going to talk about something called git ignore. So let's just go for some theoretical stuff and things actually. Okay. We have covered these things already. So this is the thing I want to talk right now. .gitignore file it is very important file, so you should pay attention here. So gitignore is something where you want to keep something secret, the information you don't want to share with others. For an example, maybe you will keep some API URL, maybe you will keep some password or username, for an example, just for your reference here. So gitignore is a file where you'll keep secret information. That's all you should know right now. And how this gitignore file works? If you keep something in the gitignore file and if you push your codes from the local repository to GitHub repository or remote repository, these files are not going to be pushed in the remote repository. So no one can see this file. Only all this file will be only in your local machine. It's not going to your GitHub repository, and that's the purpose of gitignore file. Now you can say, for an example, test.txt file. You can keep information about a lot of secret information inside this file, but inside the gitignore file you'll say, hey, this test.txt file should be private. That's all. And how do you say? Just name the file, and that's all, with the extension. And .env file is something probably you don't understand right now, and you will not understand if you're not familiar with like environment setup and other things. And if you say something like you can see *.txt inside this gitignore file, which means okay, like keep secret all the txt file, all the file that have txt extension, that's all. If you say not main.txt, that means okay, you can like keep secret all the txt file, but not this one. This one should not be private. You can push it to the GitHub. If you say something like this temp, then /folder, that means you want to keep secret these folders. This time you can keep a secret folder. Even for file, you can just name it, and for folder, you have to say / after the folder name. That's all. Okay. So let's just work about this now. Let's see how practically this thing works. But again, I can repeat it from here. When sharing your code with others, there are often files or parts of your project that you don't want to share. And these things that you don't want to share, you'll always mention in the gitignore file. So let's create a gitignore file and let's see how does it work actually. Okay. This time you can see this is my GitHub repository, our remote repository, and this is our local computer where we are working with a project and we are making some changes and pushing to the remote repository. So let's just add a file called secret. Okay. So secret.txt, this is our file. And I can keep some secret information here. For an example, I want to say my date of birth, okay, which is kind of like 12/3/1990. So this is my date of birth, and maybe this for this project, this is my secret information that I don't want to push to the GitHub repository so that everyone can see. I want to keep it private. I don't want everyone to see. When I push my code from here, like, okay, push my code from here, no problem. Push all my local repository code to remote repository, but accept my private information. So this is my private information. And now how can I do this? How can I ignore this file from pushing from the local repository to GitHub repository? We can do this. We can create a gitignore file. So dot, and then you say gitignore So this is the file you want to create, and here you can say the file or folder name that you don't want to push to GitHub. So I'm saying secret.txt file should be the file that I don't want to push. Let's come here and see what changes we made. Now this time I can say git status. Let's see whether we have any changes. It's saying you have added a gitignore file. Okay, let's just include that file. How do you include that file? How do you like push these changes to your staging area? By saying git add and dot. That's all. And now everything is in the staging area. Now we can say like we can transfer this staging area things to our local repository by saying commit, git commit m, and then I'm saying edit like gitignore file. Just a message I want to say gitignore file. Okay, fine. And let's just push our code now, because everything in the local repository. So let's just push it. So git push should be working. Let's see. Yes, it is working. Now we can go to the remote repository and we can check this secret.txt is actually just secret here, or maybe it has already come here. Let's see. It is secret or private. Okay, fine. I can come to this master here, test git.new. This is the folder. You can see the gitignore file here, but you don't see the secret.txt file. And why? Because this is the gitignore like magic. In the gitignore we said don't include this file when you push the code from local to remote. That's all. Okay, now let's create a folder called temp folder this time. And inside this temp folder, maybe let's say you have many files. Let's say test1.txt, let's say here test2.txt, whatever. Okay, so let's say you have many files here, and you don't want this temp folder to include in your like when you're pushing the code from local to remote. So you don't want to include them when you want to push, and you can just avoid from here, just saying temp folder, so temp /, that's all. Now this file will be ignored when we push our code from local to remote. And let's try it again. Now you made some changes, you have to add the changes, so git add. So these commands are like every time saying make some change, git add dot, then git commit, and then push. That's all. So git add, git commit, and git push is kind of repetitive things you have to do every time. So I'm saying git commit m, and then made changes to git ignore, or I can say temp is added to gitignore, whatever. And now let's push the change, git push. Okay, and let's check out whether this temp folder was ignored or not. Actually you can see from here these are kind of like very light now, and these are bright, so I can see this has been pushed to the GitHub, but not these. You know, these are look very like less light things here. Okay, so I can see the changes. I reloaded it, but you don't see the folder called temp folder inside this GitHub repository. Now you know how to use gitignore file. So this time I'm going to talk about readme.md, and probably then after that I'm going to move like talking about the branching things. Let's just start learning about markdown. This is something we can do here, or also we can even do here. So let's just start doing from here so that we can understand how the markdown works actually. For that reason I have to create a file, and that file name will be readme.md. So basically the reason of creating this readme file is a kind of a documentation for this project. This is something very common you will see in many repositories that people like create project. So let's just start learning about markdown. You can see the extension is saying .md here. Now, as I said, markdown will give you some sort of documentation for your project. I can show you an example. Okay, this is one of my project, and you can see I have added a markdown. So whatever you can see here, it is basically because of these markdown things that I have done here. You can add headings, and you can add subheadings, you can add italic text, bold text. You can see you can add single line code, multiple line code. You can make ordered list with this markdown thing. You can create unordered list. You can create automatic links. You can see from here. You can add add images with this markdown text, and also table as well. So you can do a lot many things with this markdown things. So let's start at least doing few things here and show you how to do it, and later on you can just Google by yourself and you can learn more about markdown. or more about this readme things. Okay, so actually learning about markdown is very essential at this point for making documentation for your project whenever you create a project. So first of all, I want to create headings. So for that, one hash means heading 1. If you do like 2 hash here, for an example like this, it will be heading 2. So for an instance, I will say this is heading 1 and save it, and you can see the output basically from here as well. If you just click on here, open preview, then you will see the output. It's saying heading 1, so the output will be something like this. And I'm going to close it for now, and then I'm going to show you a few more examples. I will say it's heading 2. So let's just come down here, heading 2. You can see the difference of heading 1 and heading 2. So there are 6 headings, just like HTML. And more interestingly, you can use HTML tag here as well. So you can say h2, and then you can put something inside this h2 tag. You can say I am h2, and this h2 thing is still working. So HTML is valid for markdown. But anyway, we are learning markdown things, so let's just keep it like this. From h1 to h6, you can make like 1 hash, 2 hash, 3 hash, something like this. Okay, and after that we can do a lot of things here. We can create paragraph with the paragraph tag, but we are not going to do this. For a single line of code, you can just do this. For an example, you want to give an instruction to the user. You can say, hey, npm install, and then do the project, run the project, start the project, or something like this. For an example, I can say git add. So this is the first step after making any change, and in the next line I could say git commit, and in the next line I could say git push. So these are some steps that you need to follow. But here you don't see any new line. You can space and new line, you can add 1 space or 2 space. You can see the new line is coming up already. That's it. So for adding codes in one line, you can do like this, or even for multiple line, probably you don't want to do this. For that, you have to use 3 backticks, as am I doing. You can see the 3 backticks here. So starting 3 backticks and ending with 3 backticks. Now you can add multiple line code like this: git add, and then git commit, and then probably some sort of message. So you can leave some documentation for others so that they can read about your project and they can understand about your project. Now you can see the structure of this multiple line code that we added here. If you say git here, let's see how does it work. It's not going to work. If you say HTML here, it's not going to work, because if you add HTML related code, then you can place the HTML related code here, and you can say HTML here. For an example, I can say h1, and you can see the output has been changed. It's more structured and more like organized now. I'm heading 1. Okay. And if you do some CSS things, I can show you you can use CSS here instead of HTML. Now if you don't use the CSS, what happens, I'll show you first, and probably you can see the output. Now right now, if you, let's say I want to select h1 and do something, color red. Now it doesn't look like CSS, does it? It doesn't look like CSS. Now if you want to get CSS style, then all you have to do just add CSS at the beginning of this backticks, as you can see, and now it is now more colorful, more organized and structured. Okay, same goes for JavaScript. You can do the JavaScript things here, you can do the JSON things here as well. I'm not going to talk about those things. And then probably you can create a list. It's very simple. Creating list in the like markdown is very easy. You can say 1, then you can say someone's name for an example, then 2, I'm going to say someone's name here as well. So these are like ordered lists, and you can create unordered lists, which is very much possible by just using these hyphen. Let's say item 1, item 2, and then you can go on item 3. And also you can do it's like nesting here inside one another. So one list inside another list. That's it. Nested list. Okay. So whatever, we know how to create the listings as well. And then now I'm going to show you how to add links inside this markdown tag. And this is very simple. All you have to do, you have to just place some sort of links here. So I can put one of my websites link here, study with Anisul Islam, and you can see I just pasted it. It's just appearing as like a link. So this will be output. Or I can say something like this, even I can make it look more nice. How? just adding a square bracket here and say a title for my link. I will say study with Anis, but this thing has to be like placed together, not like this. So we can make it like this, and then later on for this link part, or I can put everything inside a round bracket. That's all. Now you can this time you can see just the title, this one that I have put inside the square bracket. You don't see the link because I have put the link inside the round bracket. But now if you click here, it will take you to this address for sure. So this is how you can add link to your markdown tag. And for adding image, you can use image tag. I'm not going to discuss about this thing. It's going to take a lot of time. This course is basically all about Git and GitHub, but markdown is something important, and that's why I just discuss a little bit here. Now I want to push what about the markdown changes I made here to my remote repository. And how do you do it? You have done so many times, and I'm sure that you can do it for sure. So for this reason, what you're going to do, I'm going to make a screen bigger. First of all, the process is same, git add and add everything, and then commit. So git add, git commit, and git push. That's all. And then say git commit, and then a message here, added readme. I'm going to say that I have added readme here, and then git push. That's all. And it should be working for us. If everything goes right, here will be some sort of message that pop up. As you can see, it's saying everything is pushed to master. Okay, let's see. Let's just reload our GitHub repository that we are working with. Right now you don't see any readme because I have not reloaded it. So now after reloading, you can see the readme.md here, and this is something more interesting. You can see the readme.md output here basically. So it will be always here as a kind of documentation for your project. And if you go to the readme.md, you can see the code here, output here as well. And if you want to see the code, then you have to click here. You can see the pen icon here. This is the thing, you can see it. Okay, whatever we have done inside the readme.md, it's here. So you can make changes from here as well, and then make the commit. You have learned it already. I have talked about this. If you want to delete, the delete option is here. If you want to copy the code, the copy is option here. Okay, that's all I want to talk about readme.md, which means markdown tag. Now I'm going to move to the branching and merging things. Okay, here is our important topic called git branch and merge. This topic can be a little bit trickier at the beginning, but I will make sure that you understand this topic very well. So I'll go very slowly. Please pay your attention to this topic. This is something very much important when you are working with Git. So right now in our project that we are working, we know we have only one branch called master, and you have noticed it quite many times already. But this is a good idea to create a separate branch like that is going to be created from master branch for sure. And that separate branch is going to have everything that you have in the master branch. So why do you need this separation? Basically, you want your master branch always that something going to work for you. And if you are going to create a different branch from the master branch, and then probably in that different branch you are going to make your changes, whatever you want to do. Let's say you want to fix a bug. Let's say you want to add a new feature and you want to do some work in that new branch, which is completely fine, because your master branch is still kind of something untouched and it's still something kind of still working. So just think like that. You have a branch called master. In our project we already have a branch called master. We'll create a separate branch from this master branch, and then we'll do something. We'll review this thing whether it works or not. We'll do our testing things, and finally when we know that this thing's perfectly working, so this new branch thing is perfectly working for us, then we'll merge with our master branch. So this is basically works. Let's say today you realize you want to add a new feature for your software. So what you'll do, you'll create a new branch from the master branch. So it's just a copy of your master branch, and from this master branch you will do whatever you wanted to do. You will work with your new feature, you will review the feature, you will test your feature whether it's going to work or not, and when you are sure that it's working, then you are going to merge it again with your master branch so that your master branch gets the update. So that's the idea, nothing more than that. So how do you create a branch? You just have to say git branch and then the branch name. And finally, if you want to move to the new branch, then you have to say git checkout, then the branch name. So after working in this branch, whatever you wanted to do, let's say you finished your work in the new branch, now you want to merge these changes to your master branch. You can do this with the help of git checkout master, which means first you are moving to the master branch, and then you are saying git merge, then the new branch name, which is deb here for this example. You could say anything here. So this is how you create branch, move to a branch, do something, and then for merging, first of all, you need to go to the destination branch, and then you say git merge, and then the new branch name. So basically it can get a little bit complicated here, but whenever you're going to see the example, these things will be much easier for you. So for an example, again, let's see it like this. We have a branch called master. We made some sort of commit. Let's say we are in the commit number 2. And then we decided we'll create a branch called feature1 because we want to add a feature to our software, so that we need to create a branch and work in this branch, because we want to keep our master branch like it's working, it's functional, nothing wrong here. So we want to keep it like this. So in this case, we have to create feature1 branch, and for that reason we can say git branch feature1. So it will create a branch called feature1, and then we'll move to the branch. So we have to say git checkout feature1. That's all. Now we can work in this feature1 and it will work perfectly. When you know everything is working here perfectly, then it's a good time to merge your new branch with the master branch, so that master branch get every changes that you made in the new branch here. So for this reason, first you'll move to the master branch, git checkout master, and then you'll say git merge, then the new branch name, which was feature1, and that's what you're going to say. That's all. So let's see how this thing work in a real life project, especially in our project that we are working. Okay, here is our Visual Studio Code, and I can check whether how many branch we have created here, whether do you have any branch other than master. So for that reason, I'll make it bigger so that you can see what I'm doing here inside this terminal. So this is our project folder. So far we've been working in this video tutorial, and we can check what branches do you have. For this reason, we can say git branch. So it is basically going to return us all the branch name that we have inside this project. So you can see currently we have only one branch, which is master branch, and currently we are working inside this master branch. How do we know this? Because we have the asterisk symbol here just before the master branch. Now that we want to create branch, okay, but before that I want to show you something else. You can check something like this git branch, and then you can say -r. So this is basically going to help you to check that out, like how many remote branch you have inside this project. So it's saying we have a branch, remote branch called origin master. And if you want to check just locally, you can do that, like saying git branch and -a. And you can see that actually it's going to do locally and remotely. So both of these branches are showing here. This is the local branch and this is the remote branch. So for the local branch, we know that we can say just git branch, I think. So this should be working. Anyway, you know the idea, like how to check your branches in your git repository, in your git project folder. Okay, cool. Now let's just create a new branch. How do you create a branch? We know how to create a branch for sure. We just say git, then the branch keyword, and then give a branch name. I'm going to say like feature1, something like this. And then we have new branch now. And how do I know that we have a new branch? We can just say git branch, and it should list all the branches. Now you can see we have two branches here. One is called feature1, another one is called master. But still we are in the master branch. But the reason we created the new branch, because we want to work in this new branch and make some changes. Later on, if we test everything working correctly in the feature1 branch, then probably later on we are going to merge this feature1 branch into the master branch so that we get all the changes that we made inside this feature1 branch. Okay. So let's just go to this feature1 branch now. Let's just move ourselves from master to feature1 branch and then start doing something that we want to do. So for this reason, you have to say git checkout and then the branch name for sure. So what is the branch name we have given? It's called feature1. Okay, cool. Now it's saying we have switched to branch feature1 Fine, we can check it out. We can say git branch and see what is the current branch that we are working. We are working in the feature 1 branch. Fine. And now, even though if you are in the feature 1 branch, you can see that we have everything. We have everything that we created for the master branch. Whatever we had in the master branch, we have everything in this feature branch, because I said when you create a new branch from the master branch, basically you are making a copy. That's all. Now inside this copy we can do whatever we want, but it's not going to make any changes to our master unless we merge it. So that's the reason, that's the security purpose we work in a different branch. And also it's a good idea to do work in a different branches, so that you know that it's not going to harm anything in your master branch. And whenever you are ready with your work, then let's just merge. That's all you have to know here. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do, for an example, I'm going to add a new feature, and this new feature is not going to be anything. It's just a file, test2.txt, and here I'm going to say, hey, I am test2 file, and I am from where? I'm from feature 1 branch. So I just added a few things here so that you can understand that the feature 1, when we merge that, so that you can understand this sort of stuff from feature 1 branch. That's all. I am from feature 1 branch and I'm working, and nothing more than that. Actually, just leave it like this. Now that you made some changes, you remember what you have to do. Always git add and git commit. This is something very much important, so that you can put everything in your local repository. Okay, so let's start. I'm going to say git add. So this is something very much universal. You have to do quite many times in your project. If you make some change, make git add and then do git commit. And then if you want to push it to the remote repository, you can do it. But we don't want to push it. We just want to add it to local repository, and if we are happy with this, then we are going to merge it to the master and then finally push. We can do it like this. Okay, so let's say git commit, and I'm going to say here, I'm going to give some message here. I'm going to say initial commit from feature 1 branch, something like this. Okay, cool. Now that I made the commit, what I will do, I will go back to my master branch and let's see what we have in the master branch right now, because we made some changes. Whether these change appear in our master branch, does it do anything with our master branch? I wanted to show you that thing. So if you want to move back from one branch to another, you have already learned the process. You have to say git checkout, then the branch name. So I want to go to the master branch. Fine. But whenever I move to the master branch, you see this test2.txt just gone. It is not here anymore that I wanted to see here, because whatever work you have done in the feature 1 branch, you have not merged that things here, and that's why you cannot see it here. Well, let's do one more thing. We can say git log and one line. Let's see how many commits we have here. So when I wanted to see the commit, you can see a lot of commit here, but the recent one that we made in the feature 1 branch, you won't be able to see it here. And the reason, again, because we have not merged our branch. Now, how can you merge your branch? It's very easy. When you think you are ready to merge, let's just come to the destination folder where you want to merge. So basically, come to the master. I'm already in the master. I can check that. I can say git branch, and you can see that I'm already in the master. Now, I want to merge with feature branch. So I can say git merge, and then I can say here the feature 1 branch. That's all I have to do. That's all I have to do here. And basically what it's going to do, it's going to merge the feature 1 branch to our master branch that we are currently in. Okay, so I'm going to press enter and let's see what happened. This time you can see this test2.txt file is here, and it is successfully merged, and that's why you can see it here. Otherwise you won't be able to see it. Okay, now let's check this time what happened with the git log one line. But before that, I want to make sure that I am inside the master branch still. You can see. Okay, now let's check out this thing like git log one line, and you can see it clearly that master and feature 1 branch merged together, and that's why you can see the commit that we did from the feature 1 branch. Perfect. So it's working. Okay. Now, if you want to delete a branch because you think you have worked with that branch already and the purpose of creating this branch is finished, you have done the task. Now you want to delete the branch. Of course you can delete the branch because we have merged the branch already and that branch is not necessary anymore. So how can we delete that branch? Of course we can delete the branch. For this we have to say git branch and then -d, then the branch name. Okay, we know the branch name is feature1, so I'm going to say feature1, and basically it's saying delete branch feature1. So it has deleted our feature1 branch, and you can check it like this, saying git branch. Let's check out. You can see this time we have only master branch. Now let's just push our changes to our remote repository. We can do it. You know how to do it. Let's just say git push. That's all. And it should be working perfectly. Let's see. I'm going to the branch. I'm going to the repository. Right now we don't have test2.txt. We have the test2.txt because we have pushed it, and that's why we have this one here. And you can see it's saying initial commit from feature1 branch, but you won't be able to see any branch here. It's because we didn't push that new branch here. We could push that new branch and merge from here as well. So let's just try that. Let's create a branch and another branch. Let's call it feature2. And this is going to create a new branch for us. We can check this out. We can say git branch. You can see there is a new branch called feature2. So now we have created a new branch from our master branch, which is just a copy of our master branch. And now we can start working with this feature2. And whenever we're happy with the feature2, then we can merge the task to the master branch. Okay, so let's just move back to the feature2. Git checkout. Of course, it has to be git checkout and then feature2. Okay, so feature2. Cool. And now it's saying I have switched to feature2 branch. Okay, so right now I'm inside the branch called feature2 and I can make my changes. So I can add a new file called test3.txt, txt basically I wanted to say, and here I'm going to say hello, I am someone and I'm special because I was created from feature3. I was created from feature3, feature2 branch. Feature, it's just I'm putting some rubbish thing, at least it does our work. Feature2 branch, that's all. Okay, fine. Now that we made some changes, we need to add the changes and commit. You know this process, so git add and then git commit, and of course there should be some sort of commit message. I'm going to say initial commit or first commit from this feature2 branch. Initial commit from the feature branch. Cool. And that's all. Now that we made our changes to the new branches, so we want to merge it with our master branch. We can do this, but what happens if we want to push our code from here? So let's check out how can we push our code from here. Is it possible? So let's say if I say git push from here, what's it's going to do? Last time we did git push u origin master, you remember? But this time, can we say like this origin feature2? Can we do this like something like this? So we pushed our code from the feature2 branch, which is possible. You can do it. The way you push from the master, the same way you can do it from here. You could say git push u origin master or any branch name like that we did, like feature2. And now let's come back to our GitHub repository and let's see what is happening. Now it's saying, hey, you have something new that you have done from feature2 branch. Now you have two different branch. One is called master, another one is called feature2. Do you want to add these changes to your master branch? And this is something called pull request. We are making some requests to the master branch. Hey, do you want to like pull these changes to your branch, to the master one? So you can just click here and see what changes has been done, and then you can add the changes. But before that, actually, we didn't make the pull request. We have to create the pull request. The pull request is a topic that we wanted to see later on, but here it comes, so probably we can understand about this. Now that I have done my work from a different branch, and I have what I have done here, I have pushed it from the different branch to our remote repository. Now we have not merged it to our master yet, and that's why it's saying you can merge it to the master branch from the feature to branch, and it's saying able to merge, so there is no problem of merging here. You can do it, but you have to create a pull request. You have to request to the master branch, and then master branch will see what request that you made, and then it will review, and then probably it will decide what to do, whether master branch is going to accept your request or not. That's something next. So I can leave some comment here, but I'm not going to leave some comment. I'm just going to create the pull request from here. Okay, cool. So I have created the pull request, and now it's my turn. You can see here it's saying pull request 1. Okay, fine. And if I go back here to the repository, and still I'm in the master branch, I can go to the feature 2 branch, which is perfect, you can see. But if I go to the master branch and I want to like accept the pull request, whatever is done from another branch, I can do it from here. I can accept the pull request. This is the pull request that user made, and I can go to the pull request, and let's see if I am happy with the changes that has been done in this pull request, and I can check it. I can go to the code. You can go to the code from here. You can see what changes has been done from the other branch, and then you have decided, okay, the changes is good. I'm going to merge the pull request, so I'm going to accept whatever has been done from feature 2 branch. And this is called like creating pull requests and accepting the pull request, or merging the pull request. Okay, so or probably if you don't want to accept the merge request, you can give some comments here, and you can close the pull request maybe, or whatever you want to do. You have many options here. You can spend some times here and you can check it by yourself. But I'm just going to accept the pull request, and I can leave here some comment. Even I can maybe make some changes here, but I'm going to confirm the merge. So I'm trying to say I'm okay with this feature 2 branch changes, and I want to add these changes to my master branch. That's all. So I'm merging the changes now. So it's saying pull request successfully merged and closed. So the thing is here closed. We have done everything that we wanted to do. Now there is no pull request here. You can see there is no number here. Now if I go back to here, I can see I have test3.txt. So we have done the merging here, in the GitHub repository. We could do the merging here as well, but this is something I wanted to show you, because when you're going to work in a project with team members, they are going to make some changes, and they are going to create some pull requests, so that you can see what the changes they made, and you can decide whether you are going to like merge them into your master branch or not. Okay, fine. So far so good. We did cover quite a lot. Now I'm going to talk about two-way merge, but before that, we made some changes here, isn't it? So why not just pull those changes into our local repository? Because if I check the branch here, let's check the branch. I can see I'm still in the feature 2 branch. Let's move to the master branch, git checkout master. And now you don't see this test3.txt that you did from the feature 2 branch, but still it does show here. So now your local repository is kind of fall behind from your remote repository, because you have done something here, isn't it? And that changes you want to pull here before you start to do anything. And we could do it like this by saying git pull. So we can pull all the update things from our remote repository to our local repository. So it's a good thing to make git pull every time before you start to do something, because you don't know, maybe someone has changed already and pushed the code in the GitHub repository, remote repository already. So it's better, if you want to do something, make sure you just pull the code again so that you get the updated code. Okay, now we have all the updated thing here, you can see it. Okay, now I'm going to talk about, there are two types of merging actually. One is called two-way merge, which is also known as a forward merge, and then later I'm going to talk about three-way merge as well, so that you can see merge conflict thing. Also, you have seen like how to solve like git pull requests, how to like merge pull requests, but again we are going to see many things in details for sure. So let's just start with two-way merge. This is kind of a merge, and how does it work, you are going to understand like with a better example. So here we are going to talk about two-way merge, or something called fast forward merge. First of all, I want to give you some theoretical knowledge, and then we are going to see how these things practically works. So as I said, two-way march is also known as fast forward march. For an example, think like that. We are working in the master branch and we made one commit, which is called C1 for this example. And our head is here, as you can see. It's inside this master branch. It's referring the master branch. Later on, we decided to made another commit. We did some change and made commit. So our master branch basically in the C2 commit, and you can see the head also moved here. And then probably we are going to we are going to do one more commit. So our master has moved from C2 to C3 commit, and also head is referring to the master here. Fine. Now we have created a new branch called feature branch, and the head is referring to the feature branch now. And we have made some commit here. Let's say it's kind of C4. So just keep your eyes here. You know, we have created many commits, then we created a new branch, and our head moved to the new branch. That means we are working in this branch. Now in this branch, I'm going to make one more commit, which called C5. So our head moved to the new commit of this feature branch. Now later on, we have made another commit in this feature branch, and you can see the head moved to the new commit. Okay. But now, after making all these changes, I realize I'm going to bring back all these changes to the master, because whatever changes I made, I'm happy with these changes, and I want to merge them with my master branch. Of course, we can do it. But this time, our master branch is way fall behind from this feature branch, because we have added many commits, as you can see. To this master branch that we created. The feature branch was created from the master branch. We made some changes, but now master branch fall behind. If you see this feature branch here, it is like more forward than we have to go more forward to get everything, isn't it? So we have to move forward, and for this reason we have to do a fast forward march here, and so that we can get every changes that we made inside this feature branch. So we want to move forward, and that's why this sort of merging called fast forward march. And what we're going to do, it's kind of two-way march. As you can see, you are going from here to here, so just one way to another. So two-way march is also called this type of march. So now we can see it. Let's see it practically, and let's see how does it work. So I'm going to my browser. You can see my browser is here, perfect. But here you can see the visualizing Git website I have open. So this is a website you can open, and then you can play with this website to understand how these merging things work, like two-way march or three-way march. So let's just start to use them here, like two-way march we have learned so far. So here is already one commit is created for us, and it's saying we are in the master branch, because head is saying already it's referring to this master branch. Okay, let's add one more commit in our master branch by saying just git commit. You can see that whenever I have created a new branch, master has moved to the new branch, new commit actually. And head is saying, okay, this is the branch I'm working, so the master branch. I'll make another commit here this time, and you see the master moved to this new commit, and head is saying we are working in the master branch. Now let's create a new branch here, which is just a copy of the master branch. So I'm going to say feature 1 for an example, feature 1. And now that you can see we have created a new branch, but still our head is saying I'm working in the master branch. That's what head is saying, because if you want to work with this feature 1 branch, you have to check out from the master to the feature 1, and we know how to do it by saying git checkout, and then we can say feature 1. Okay, and now our head moved to this feature 1 branch. Now we can start working inside this feature 1 branch. So let's say for an example, I made some changes, and I'm going to make just a commit here, git commit. You can see that we have a new commit in the feature 1 branch, and head is also moving with the feature 1 branch. Basically it's saying I'm working with the feature 1 branch right now. Make one more commit in this feature 1 branch, so git commit, and it should be visible here. You can see that we have new commit here. Again, I'm going to add one more commit as well. So you can see we have now 3 commits inside this feature1 branch. But now the problem is master has fallen behind quite a lot, and I am happy with the changes that I made inside this feature1 branch, and I want to merge them together so that master gets everything, all changes I have done, all the changes I have done inside this feature1 branch. So I want to move forward my master branch to here. That's my plan. And for that, first of all, you know how to merge for sure. I have given you the idea already. If you want to merge with the master, first you have to move to the master branch and then do the git merge thing. Okay, so let's just move to the master branch right now. So git checkout and master, that's all. Now we have moved to the master branch, as head is referring to the master branch. Now let's go first forward. Let's merge it, merge the feature1 branch. And we can do it by saying git merge and then feature1. So the branch we are trying to merge with our master is called feature1. And now you can see here is something saying you have performed a fast forward merge here. Yes, we did it. So the normal merge we do normally, like creating a branch, do some changes, and then merge with the master. It is basically the fast forward merge. And you can see the example, like the master branch now moved to the feature1, so it get all the changes has been done by the feature1 branch. So I think you have got the idea about two-way merge. Now let's move back to the three-way merge and let's see how does it work. But one thing you should notice here when you work with this two-way merge, I will show you the commit here. It's something essential, so I'm going to say git commit then or git log one line. I want to see how many commit I have done, and it's not going to work here by saying git log one line. What about git log? Yes, it's working git log, and you can see we have made so far 2 3 4 5 6 commit. Is it like this? 1 2 3 4 5 6? Yes, it is like this. So no new commit has been created after merging, so this is something you should notice. When you do two-way merge or fast forward merge, there is no new commit is created after merging. So there is nothing different. Whatever committed we have done, it's here, nothing extra, okay? But in a three-way merge, when you will do merging, you will see that we have one extra commit, okay? Probably this is something we are going to talk about later, but for now I wanted to tell you here so that you understand when I say there is new commit has been created, but there was no commit in the fast forward merge or two-way merge, okay? So let's move to the three-way merge now. Okay, let's start learning about three-way merging. I did clear my screen with the command clear here and then press enter. Okay, that's all. So the screen was cleared. Now we are good to go. We are going to make some commit in the master branch, and especially we're going to create a scenario where we can see how the three-way merge work. So as I said, I'm going to make some commit in the master branch. I'm going to say git commit m. This time the message is going to be second commit. Okay. Now you can see this is our second commit. I can make one more commit here by saying git commit m. And then I'm gonna give a message saying third commit. Okay, so far so good. Now from this third commit, which is our master branch, as you can see, head is referring to the master branch. I'm going to create a new branch here, and you know how to create a new branch. You have to say git branch and then the branch name. This time I'm going to say it's a feature branch. Okay, and I need to move to feature branch if I want to make some changes in the feature branch. So I'm going to say git checkout feature. And you can see the head is now referring to the feature branch, which means we are in the feature branch. Now I'm going to make some commits here, git commit m, and then say anything as you like. I'm going to say fourth commit. And I will make one more commit in this branch. So it's going to be git commit m, and then fifth commit. Okay, so far so good. We are doing good here. So this is something should be well known to you from the two-way merge. This was a scenario where the master was fall behind and we wanted to merge with the feature, so we did like two-way merging. That was okay for the last purpose, but this time we want to see a three-way merging. Now if I want to show you a three-way merging, the scenario will be kind of like this. Let's say I'm working in the feature branch right now, but one of my team member decided to work from the master branch, and let's say he or she is going to make some commits in the master branch. So at the same time, like we are gonna have 3 direction, and I can show you here. So let's say if I move to git to the master, git checkout master branch, and here if someone is making some commits, let's say git commit m, and this time I'm going to say it's a 6 commit, fine. I'll make one more commit here by saying git commit m 7th commit. Okay, cool. Now you can see, for an example, I'm here working in the feature branch, which was copied from the master branch from here, but one of other team member decided to work from the master branch and made some commit in the master branch. Now they are here, for an example. So now if I want to merge my feature branch here to here, I can do that. But now we have one more direction here, which is already updated. The master branch is updated. So now this is a point, this is another point, and this is the source point for this feature branch. So now we have like kind of 3-way direction. As you can see, this is called 3-way merging if we do some sort of merging right now. Well, we are already in the master branch, so we can merge with the feature one. Let's do the merging here. So I'm going to say git, then merge, and then the feature branch. So we are going to merge the feature branch with the master branch, and now it is merged. You can see it's saying here merge, and the interesting thing, it has created a commit for us this time. That was not the case for the 2-way merging. So now you can see how 3-way merge create a new commit for you. Okay, and especially you can see it here. If you say git log, you will be able to see that first commit, second commit, third commit, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh that we made. But there is another commit called merge, and this was something automatically generated when we did merging. Okay, so now that you understand about 3-way merging, I think it's a good time to move to merge conflict, how merge conflict work on Git. And later on we are going to see how merge conflict work on GitHub. Okay, let's start understanding what is merge conflict, and then we are going to see the practical part of merge conflict. Pay your attention on this topic because this is something very, very much important. And here we have a master branch. Okay, let's imagine you are working in a master branch and the file name is something like story.txt. And here you have 2 lines. One is hi, another one is hello. As you can see, it's saying here. Now let's just create a branch and move to a new branch. For this reason, you could say git branch, then the branch name, and again, then you have to say git checkout, then the branch name. But we have a shortcut for doing this task. We can say git checkout, then -b, and then the branch name. So what this command is basically doing, it's creating a branch for you and also checking out to this branch, feature branch as well. Now, okay, that we have created a new branch and check out to the new branch. That means we have created a copy of the master branch. Whatever the master branch had, we have now in the feature branch. Okay, that means we have the story text as well in the feature branch, and we have these 2 lines. First line is saying hi, second line is saying hello. So far so good. Now let's just imagine we have created another line in the feature branch. From the feature branch, you know, we have created a new line called by in the story.txt file, and this time I want to check out to the master branch. Of course I can do that. I'm checking out to the master branch, and then I decided that I'm going to add a new line to this story.txt before even merging this with the feature branch. So think like this, you know, you move to the new branch, even though you did some changes, you didn't merge with the feature branch, you just added a new line as a number 3. Now, this is something you have to remember, or you have to notice, you know, you have same file story.txt here, you gave something different here, and again, when you check out to the master branch, you created a new line. It's kind of number 3, and you put something else. So here we have something called merge conflict, because now if I wish to merge with the master branch to feature branch, in line number 3 we have 2 different kind of things. So if I want to now merge with feature, then there merge conflict appears. So how do you like solve this issue here? We have to resolve the conflict before merging, otherwise it's not going to allow us merging because we have two different things in two different files. Now how do you solve this merge conflict? We can solve it on Git, and also we can solve it on GitHub. We have two different options. But for checking out the merge conflict story things or merge conflict status, we can use Git status. So this is something going to help us about the modification that has been done, so that it helps you to resolve the conflict. So that now we have the theoretical knowledge about this merge conflict, it's a good time to move on the practical side of this merge conflict. So let's go to our project that we are working on so far. Okay, here is the project folder that we are working so far during this tutorial. What I'm going to check, I'm going to go to the test2.txt file, and I can see here is just one line of code or one line of something, you know. So now I can create a new branch, and I'm going to add a new line here for an example. And then I would like to change from the master branch as well, and then I will try to do merging. So these sort of things will get clear. Let's just start working. I'm going to create a new branch, so I'm going to make it a little bit bigger for you so that you can see what's happening here. So let's just create a branch and check out to that branch. So we can do it like with the shortcut, as you have already seen. We can say git checkout, then -b, then a new branch name. This time I'm going to say it's kind of feature 4, let's say something like this. So we just created a branch and also moved to that branch. Now basically we are in the feature 4 branch. So whatever we are going to do, we are going to do it from the feature branch. And I decided to make some changes in the test2.txt file. So here I'm going to say I am the change from feature branch. Okay, just for you that you can understand, feature 4 branch. Okay, cool. Now I have made the changes, so I can say git add. Of course, you know, whenever you made some change, you have to say git add, and then you have to say git commit, and I'm going to give a commit here. We'll say feature branch, feature 4 branch. Okay, feature 4 branch change. Fine. Okay, cool. So I made the change that I wanted to do. Now I'll go back to the master branch. So let's go back to the master branch by saying git checkout master. And whenever I'm going to move to the master branch, remember this line will like just vanish because we didn't merge it yet, and you can see it. Now that I'm in the master branch, before even merging with the feature 4 branch, I decided to add something new here. But remember, in the feature 4 branch, we already did add something here, isn't it? But anyway, let's just forget about this. We are going to add something here from here. So I'm going to say I am the changes from the master branch, Okay, good, master branch. Now after changing this, I can like add and commit. You know the process. You have, after making any change, you have to add the changes and then you have to commit the changes. So let's say master changes. Cool. So that we have done our commit, now let's try to merge and let's see what happened. So this time if I try to merge with the feature 4, and we know that in the feature 4 we have changes this test2.txt file in the second line actually, and before merging with the master branch we also did some change from the master branch. So if I do like git merge feature 4 here, now I want to merge with my feature 4 branch, which should create a conflict, and we can see here it's saying auto merging test2.txt conflict, merge conflict in test2.txt. So we have a merge conflict here that we were expecting. We knew that it's going to be happen. Now before merging it asking us whether we want to keep the changes from master or changes from the feature 4 branch. So first we need to resolve this conflict and then we can merge. Okay, so for an example, I'm going to keep the changes from my feature 4 branch. I don't want to keep the changes that I'm having from the master branch. And how do I know these are the changes from my master branch? Because it's showing my head that currently I'm working with the branch. So I know this is from my master branch anyway, even if I'm not looking at the text. So I have decided that I'm going to take all the changes from the feature 4 branch, and I'm going to remove all the changes from master branch. And this is very easy. All you have to do, just remove whatever you had from the master branch, including these head things, and also remove this part from here. Just make it like this. So these are the changes that you are accepting from the feature 4 branch. Cool. Now that we made our changes, let's just save it and let's just merge it now. So let's say git merge. Again, the same command we are going to use, git merge feature 4. And it's saying, hey, again, you have some problem. Merging is not possible because you have unmerged file. So first of all, when you made some changes, definitely you have to edit, surely. Okay, I have done the edit, and then let's say I have to make a commit, and it's the M message here, and let's just add some texts. So solved the merge conflict. So whenever you solve the merge conflict, you make sure that you add the changes, you make the commit, and then you can start merging. Okay, so let's just say now this time we're going to say again the same thing, git merge feature 4, and it's working. It's saying already up to date, so there is no problem about the merging. Okay, so I hope you understand how these merge conflict things work, how to resolve the merge conflict from Git. Now we are going to see like how the merge conflict and resolving works from the GitHub. Now that you have got the idea what is merge conflict is all about, and you have learned how to resolve merge conflict from Git, this time it will be much easier for you to understand how to resolve merge conflict from the GitHub. So let's just start. You can see I'm in the master branch and I have a lot of files here. I'll go to any file, let's say test3.txt. You can see there is only one line of text here. So what my plan is that I will create a new branch and I will add some text into this file. Let's say maybe that's going to be line number 2. And then again, I will come back to this master branch and I will try to make changes in the line number 2. So there should be some sort of conflict because in the new branch, I have made some changes in the line number 2 already. And then I moved to the master branch and didn't merge anything, but I again start to change in the line number 2. So then later on when I try to merge these files or these branches, I will have some conflict, which is merge conflict. And then we'll see how to resolve the merge conflict on GitHub. So anyway, let's just start. I'm going to create a new branch. I can come here and then maybe I can write down a Git branch name here. Feature 4, and when I press enter I don't see anything. No worry, I will go to the b-wall branches and from here I can create a branch. You can see new branch, and this time I'm going to name it feature 4. Cool. And I'm creating the branch from master. This is what I'm saying here. Okay, fine. Let's just select or click here, create a branch, and you can see now we have created a new branch called feature 4. Now let's go back to our repository and we can see that we have few branches here. I'm going to move to the feature 4 branch. So we are just moving to a new branch. These sort of things we have done in our Git, to be honest. We said Git branch, then branch name. But here we created everything like using the with the help of UI, user interface. So here you don't need any command. You're just doing everything with the help of user interface. And now we need to check out to the feature 4 branch, and for that reason in the Git we said git checkout then the branch name, but here you can just select and it will check out to the new branch. Now let's go to the test3.txt and let's make some changes here. So here is one option. You can see you can edit your text or lines, whatever codes you have here. So let's say hello, I am line 2. I am line 2 from the feature 4 branch, from the feature 4 branch. Okay, so this is the change I wanted to make. But you remember, after changing anything in the Git, what we have done, we have added the new changes and then made the commit. But here you don't need to add the change, just you can commit it directly from here. So I'm going to say updated test3 from the feature 4 branch, from the feature 4 branch. Okay, fair enough. Now I can commit the changes. That's all it's done. Now we can go back to the master branch And when I came back to the master branch, I can see there are some changes has been done from the feature for branch, so I could compare and pull requests. But before that, I'm going to check the test3 text file. You can see the changes I made from the feature for branch. It doesn't appear here because I didn't like merge them yet. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a conflict here, even though we know that from feature branch we did write something in the line number 2, but I'm going to override that and make it a conflict. I'm going to create a conflict here. So let's say I am the second line, I am the second line, I am the second line from master branch, Okay, cool. This time we are going to do the commit things here, and I will say updated from master branch. Updated from master branch. Cool. Let's just commit the changes and let's come back to our main repository here, as you can see. Okay. Now we didn't merge yet. We haven't done the merging. Now if I compare and try to pull requests, feature 4 requested to bring the changes into the master, but we did not. What we did, we went to the test3 file and added some text from the master branch. Now both branch has done some editing in the second line of this file, so there must be some sort of conflict. And how do you know that there is some sort of conflict? When we'll try to compare and pull requests, if I click here, now I can see it is saying cannot automatically merge. I cannot do the automatic merge. Why? Because there is some sort of conflict. So let's see what is this conflict all about. You can see here is the conflict things it's saying. But let's say I want to create a pull request. So let's go creating a pull request. I clicked here. So there should be saying the branches conflict and that must be resolved. Okay, let's resolve the conflicts. And we are here. Now, which one you want to keep? The recent changes that you made from the master branch or the change you made it from the feature 4 branch? So what I will do, I will keep the changes from the master branch and I will remove everything that has been done from the feature branch. So this is the change I want to keep. Now, after doing this, I can say mark as resolved and commit the merge. That's all you have to do. And this is how you resolve a merge conflict from GitHub. So I hope you have understood it very well. Now you can practice it by yourself. At the beginning, these sort of things can be a little bit difficult, but the more time you'll spend, these things will get more easier for you for sure. Okay. So let's say this is all about, we have now a pull request. If someone wants to make a pull request from here, let's see what happened. It's still open and we didn't merge it to the pull request yet. Let's merge it and confirm merge. That's all. Okay, it's closed. Now it's done. So there is no pull request at this moment. Fine, everything is working very much fine. Let's see the file. It's saying I'm second line from the master branch. Okay, but where is our first line? Actually, I deleted that accidentally, but no worry, you have seen how this merge conflict things happen on GitHub and how to resolve this merge conflict. So far, you have learned a lot about Git and GitHub, and I believe this video is helping you to understand these Git and GitHub terms very much easily. This time I'm going to talk about contribution to others project. Well, you have already learned how to do your own project on GitHub and how to maintain your project so far. But what about if you want to contribute to someone else's GitHub project? Isn't it possible? Definitely it is possible. Now you're going to learn how to do this contribution to others' projects. So for this reason, first of all, I'll go through some theoretical stuff, then we are going to see the practical side. Now, if you want to contribute to someone else's repository, you have to follow some basic steps. First, you need to fork that repository that you want to contribute, and that repository will be into your GitHub repository when you'll do these forking things. So forking is basically you are copying someone else's repository to your GitHub account, And then from there, you can clone that repository to your local machine, do some changes, and just like as usual, you'll make some changes, you'll push the changes to your local repository, and finally, you are going to make pull requests. So this is what are the steps that you are going to follow when you are going to contribute to someone else's project. Okay, so this is what it's saying. A fork is a copy of a repository. This is useful when you want to contribute to someone else's project or start your own project based on theirs. So these are some theory. Don't worry about this. I already explained it to you. So forking your own repository is not possible. When you have your own repository that you created for, then you can just clone it and start working on this. Nothing, fork is not necessary here. But if you are trying to contribute to someone else's repository, then you have to fork it first and then clone to your local repository. Okay, so that's all. I think we are going to see it practically, and these things is going to be helpful. Fork is not like a command. You use GitHub and fork. Okay, so for an example, I try to understand this scenario. My friend Mr. Jahidur Rahman has a GitHub account, and he has a repository called image slider repository. Now I decided that I want to contribute to this repository because I thought something could be like updated. So this is my GitHub account, and I fork his repository. And you remember when I said when you're doing forking, basically you are copying someone else's repository to your GitHub account. So now that I have done the forking, Jahidur Rahman's GitHub repository is now my own copy. So this is something that I can start working on now. And how to do? First of all, you have to clone it to your local repository or local machine so that you can start making changes, you can commit, and then you can push to your GitHub account. Of course, this is something we are already familiar with. So make changes, then commit, and then push the changes. So whenever you're happy with all of your changes, then finally you have to make a pull request and you have to say, hey, Jahidur Rahman, I am happy with the changes. Can you have a look at the changes I have made? And I am requesting you to add my changes to your GitHub repository. Well, this is the structure. So let's follow this structure and let's see a practical demonstration for this. So I'm going to take you to Jahidur Rahman's GitHub. Here is his GitHub accounts. So I can select any repository that he has here. So let's figure out, is there any repository available here somewhere? Yes, this is the image slider repository I'm talking about. So first of all, what I have to do, I have to fork it. But let's go for another repository. Let's say this one, 3D card. And I'm going to do the forking here. And how do you fork? You have this fork option. Okay, so this is actually his repository. It's not my repository, and I want to contribute to this repository. So first of all, I have to fork. So let's fork, and you can see it's saying creating a new fork, owner, this, that. So make the create fork. Nothing else is needed. Okay. So now if I go to my repository, you know, your repositories, and then if I look at the repository, there are a lot of repository actually, but I need the 3D thing that I have forked from somewhere. And you can see this, I have this repository now into my account. It's called 3D card, which I never created, but I just forked from somewhere, someone else's repository. Okay. So now that we have this repository, let's clone it to our local machine and start working with this repository. And cloning is something probably I have not discussed because I didn't think that it's kind of necessary by far. So let's just start cloning. So I'm going to go to I'm going to change my directory, and I'm going to go to my documents folder. So this is the documents folder I have moved. I'll make it a little bit bigger so that you can see it properly. Okay. Now I want to clone it. So whenever you have a repository, for an example, I'm going to say this, or I'm going to minimize this so you can see. So for an example, if you think this is your repository and you want to work with this in your local machine, always you have to clone. So clone is something you'll do quite a lot. Okay. So this is like a URL that is going to help you to cloning this repository. You could use SSH, you could use something else, but we are going to use HTTP because this is something easier. So I have just copied the URL And now going back to the terminal again, I will say git clone. So this is the command you're going to use for cloning a repository from your GitHub account to your local machine. So let's just put the URL here that we copied earlier and press enter. And this is something you can see they are doing a lot of things for you, and they copied this repository from your GitHub account to your local machine. Now let's see whether it does exist in our local machine or not. We can check it here by saying ls, and you can see 3D card basically is here. So it exists. It just we just copied that 3D card from the local from our GitHub repository to our local machine. So let's just open that 3D card. So I'm going to get into the folder called 3D card, and here I'm going to open this one into my Visual Studio Code. For this reason, I could say code dot, and it's going to open the project in my Visual Studio Code. Fine. So far everything is going very smooth. I'm going to like close this one. It's not necessary anymore. Now it's just like your own repository that you work, you can do some changes and then you can push it to your local GitHub repository. And then after all the changing are done, you are happy, then you can ask the person to get your changes to his repository. So you can ask someone, hey, this is the changes I made, can you accept my changes into your repository? That's all, so that I can be a contributor to your repository. That's all. So I'm going to this index.html, and for an example, I'm going to do something like this, some basic changes just to show you, nothing more than that. Okay, so I'm going to make it a little bit smaller in this case. Order now something. I'm going to say order now something. In the button, I'm going to change the text. That's all. Now that I have made changes here, of course, I'm going to open my terminal and I'm going to add these changes. So I can say git status to check whether any changes I made. Yes, I did make some changes. So I could say git add and then dot. So this is the step we always follow. And then we say git commit and then use this flag -n, then give some sort of message here. I'm going to say changes done in the button. Okay, whatever. And now that we have made our changes, it's good to like push these changes to our not local repository, to our GitHub repo. Okay, let's just push it. How do you push? Git push, and it should be working for us. So we did the pushing. Now let's check the GitHub repository whether the new pushing thing has like updated our GitHub account. So I'm going to reload, and you can see the branch is one commit ahead of Jahidur Rahman master. So we did make a commit, and that's why it's saying we are one commit ahead of the original repository someone that created. So even though Jahidur Rahman created this repository, but I fork it and then I clone it and then I made some changes and did a commit. So that's why I'm ahead of him. That's the thing here. And what is the new commit is all about? We can see the commit is made 16 seconds ago. 4 commits. You can get all the information here. And I said changes done in the button. So that was the commit message. Now that I am done with this like changing and stuff, I want to request him to accept my changes to his repository. And for this reason, probably you can say, you can go here, contribute, and then open pull request. So you are going to create a pull request to the person that you want to contribute. So let's just give some description here. If you want, you can give some description here. I'm going to avoid the description and just create pull request. That's all. Okay. So I'm done from my side. Now the other person, actually Mr. Jahidur Rahman, he's going to open his GitHub account and he will find the pull request from his side, and then he will decide whether he is going to accept my pull request or not. It's totally up to the person that you are sending the pull request. Okay, so I believe you have understood everything that I wanted to say about these pull request things. Now also I did try to explain you about commit and also the fork. So if you want to contribute to someone else, remember first fork his or her repository and then clone to your local machine. make some changes, whatever you wish, then push the changes to your GitHub account. And whenever you are done, then create a pull request to the original author of that repository. So that's all you should know about contributing to someone else's project. Now let's talk about collaboration. We did talk about contribution, but collaboration and contribution are not the same thing. When you are saying you want to contribute to someone else's project, you need to fork that project to your GitHub account, and then from GitHub account you are going to clone it to your local machine. You are going to make changes and then push the changes to your GitHub account, and finally you are going to create a pull request to somewhere where you want to contribute. But for collaboration, let's say this is something I have created and I wanted to add some collaborator to my project. Or maybe you are working in a company where they already have a project created and they want to add you as a collaborator. So when they want to add you a collaborator, or when you want to add someone as a collaborator, the person don't need to fork. They just will clone for your project, and cloning is perfectly fine for this purpose. So remember, contribution needs forking, but collaboration doesn't need any forking. Collaboration needs only cloning. Cloning is fine. So I'm going to add a collaborator for this project. For an example, I'm going to go to the settings, and from here I'm going to select the collaborators, you can see, and from here you can add people. You can add anyone to your project as a collaborator, but that person needs to accept your invitation to work as a collaborator. So I'm going to say one of my friends' name, Mr. Jahidur Rahman, and you can see his account is here. So I'm going to add his account. So I'm going to add him to this repository of mine. And now there will be one request is going to send to him, is saying pending invitation. So he will receive an email and he needs to accept the invitation, and then he can start collaborating in this project. So this is how collaboration basically works. So what he is going to do, he is going to clone the project after accepting the invitation, and then he will start to make his own changes and push all the changes to this repository. Now he can push it straight away if I don't set up some rules. So I want, okay, he wants to make some changes to my project. This is fine. He wants to collaborate. There is nothing wrong with that. But I wanted to make some rules for the Git collaboration. So whenever he wants to, or she wants to do something, I want to put some rules that steps needs to be followed before merging the code. And the branches here is going to help me to set up these rules. You can see add branch protection rules. I'm going to click here, and then you have some basic rules that you can select for your project. I'm going to say require a pull request before merging. So if someone wants to merge their code to this project straight away, so let's say my friend who is the collaborator of this project, he wants to do some changes, and after changing everything he wants to push the code straight away and like merge with the project that I have already created, then he will need to create a pull request. He cannot do it directly straight away. He needs to make a pull request first, and then I will check, or someone else will check and approve the request. So this is the rules I have set it here. Okay, so now that you understand how this contribution and collaboration things, I think you can start working in someone else's project, or maybe someone else is going to work in your project. You can invite that person to work as a collaborator in your project. From here you can see required number of approval before merging. You can change the number, so how many approval needs to merge that pull request you can set here. So I'm going to just leave it like 1, nothing else. And then there are some other option you can see. I'm not going to read out this option. It's better if you check by yourself. So that's all I wanted to talk about collaborators and the rules. Now, if some reason I'm not happy with this person, maybe I can remove it from here. So I can remove the invitation straight away. I don't need. Okay, so there is no person has direct access now. But if I add someone here as a collaborator, that person will have direct access to to this repository, even the repository is public or private. So there is something is coming here, public and private. You go to the settings and you can see it's all about your GitHub repository. We have many things here, as you can see, many rules, many things actually. So we can change visibility of this project. Right now the project visibility is public. We can make it private, so just change visibility, and then you can add your collaborators to your project so that other publics or other people is not going to see your project. I mean, only those people are going to see your project who are already selected as your collaborator. The last thing I'm going to discuss for this Git and GitHub tutorial is something called GitHub Pages. It is really interesting. It helps you to create a web page from your repository. So let's imagine like that. I have created a repository with the help of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And then I want to see the output of the page and I want to share that output with others. And this is the point where GitHub Pages is going to help you. It's going to generate a web page or URL for you where you can see the output and that you can share with others. So let's go to any repository from my account. You can select your own repository. Okay, this is the one. I'm going to select and generate web page. So let's go to the settings, and from here you can select the left side option called pages, as you can see. And then let's see what happened here. It's saying branch none, and also saying source deployed from branch. Of course I want to deploy from a branch, but I want to select the master branch and then save it. So it's going to take some time and generate a web page for us for sure. Here actually you had some other option. You could select custom domain, but anyway, I'm not going to talk about this. Well, you can see it's saying your GitHub Pages site is currently being built from the master branch. So it's going to take some time. When it's ready, you will see some sort of URL here that you can share with others. Okay, after waiting a few minutes, I can see my URL has been created. So let's check out how does it look like. I'm going to open it in a new tab, and you can see the output of this project here. Now the good thing is I can share this one with anyone and they can see the output of this project as well. So they will see this web page for sure. So this is how GitHub Pages helps you to like generate a web page or host a web page from your own repository, and then you can share with others.